This program contains adult content.
Is there a God?
Big atheist.
Really?
What, am I, an idiot? Come on.
That yes, it would be nice if you could throw your sins and your responsibilities on someone else. But it's not true.
It looks like far-left lunacy.
I don't believe that it's true that religion is moral or ethical.
You don't need to follow anybody!
It's not human intelligence!
If someone doesn't value logical consistency, what logical argument are you going to give them that will demonstrate that they should?
Hello and welcome to the Godless Rebelution. Today is Thursday, June 27th. This is episode 254. My name is Dan Ellis, and I'm joined in studio by...
Me.
And me. And I haven't done that for a while, so I thought I'd mess you up again.
Oh, you're fine. So Matt and Ryan are in studio as well. We are going to cover the debate tonight.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're welcome. We weren't
We were debating it.
Yeah, we were debating doing the debate. And this will be debate number 2 of the first Democratic debates.
Well, we were watching it before we came down here, so we said, let's just fucking do it.
Yeah, so the three of us are all interested in watching the debate, and so we were upstairs watching it. There were a bunch of other things, circumstances that were sort of out of our control. We had other things we were planning to do, but then we were like, fuck, let's just go watch the debate downstairs. We'll record the show. We'll do the show while watching the debate. Real quick, what's been going on for you guys lately?
Just stuff, life.
Yeah, life and stuff?
Yeah, driving around a lot. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's about it.
And you?
Just stuff, life.
Yeah.
Driving around a bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, we got the same kind of life.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Weird.
Awesome. Well, I'll talk about some stuff. Real quick. Went to Eddie Izzard. Sorry.
Yeah.
He pronounces it Izzard. That show was fucking awesome. He's very, very cool. There was an older couple sitting in the audience in front of us.
Did they know where they were at?
And I say older, they were probably in their 50s, which I'm sure to a lot of our listeners is older, but me being 45, I'm like, it's not that old. But yeah, they laughed at a lot of the show, but anytime he started talking about anything that was anti-religious or talking about him being an atheist, they clammed up, like they folded their arms and just kind of had a disgusted look on their face. And then at the end of the show, they didn't wait for an encore at all. They just they bugged out. And it's like, do they not fucking know whose show they're going to see?
Yeah, if you're going to pay...
It's Eddie Izzard, for God's sake.
Yeah, like, he's been an out atheist for a very, very long time. Very outspoken about being an out atheist.
Yeah. I figured they may have disliked his style a little more.
Yeah. It was funny. His show took you from... He's like, I'm going to take you from the beginning of time all the way up to today. Maybe into the future a little bit, I don't know. But it was good. He talked about the Big Bang and evolution and God's absence through billions of years of this planet's existence, only to insert himself in our lives within the last few thousand years.
So it was very much an anti-religious sketch he had done.
He's like, all of these creatures, born, raised, die, born, raised, die, born, fuck, eat, shit, die, born, raised, fuck, eat, shit, die. Billions and billions of years go by, hundreds of thousands of species, born, evolved, wiped out, over 90% of the things that have ever crawled on the face of the earth are now extinct, and God was nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen whatsoever. And yeah, just a lot of talk like that. It was a great show. It was awesome. I really liked it a lot. I got wrecked last Friday. Shit-faced fucking drunk. The drunkest I've been in more than a decade with my brother-in-law. I was sick, like very sick.
Like you just recovered today.
For 2 days. I don't remember it well. I have a vague recollection of vomiting my guts out. And also of being barely capable of self-ambulating to the bedroom and the bathroom. Tracy had to help me into both. And she, the next day, in talking to me about it, she's like, you should go and check out the bathroom mirror because there is a forehead print from you on it. Apparently, while I was holding onto the bathroom counter and looking at the sink, contemplating what I was going to do with myself, apparently I fell forward and smacked my head on the mirror pretty hard. She thought I was going to break it.
That's a good thing you didn't break it.
Yeah. Apparently, I was a fucking mess and was sick all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and part of the day Monday. It was bad. Really, really, really bad. I apologized to her. She's like, oh, shit happens, whatever. I was just a little worried about you. I'm like, well, I feel bad that you were worried about me because I got that drunk. And it just happened. Like, I wasn't out on a mission to do it. We were just sitting around chatting with my brother-in-law, and I drank a lot of whiskey.
Accidental drunk sometimes is the most painful.
Oh, yeah.
You weren't planning on it.
Yeah, it was. Like, we were just sitting around drinking, and it wasn't until we were talking and I started slurring bad enough that I noticed that I couldn't speak. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess it's time to go to bed. And then I went to get up and could barely walk. So then I was like, oh, fuck. I'm way too drunk for this.
Room is spinning.
She had to help me to the bedroom and the bathroom and everything. What else? Family is in town. They're all right now as we speak in Park City. Tracy's with them, and they'll be returning to here tomorrow, I believe, or Saturday.
I was up in Park City all day on Tuesday.
Yeah, apparently one of my brothers-in-law, his in-laws have a timeshare in Park City.
Okay.
So they are also in town, and he's staying up there with them and visiting back and forth. Took the kids to Vernal, Dinosaur Park, all that kind of stuff. We might be adopting a puppy.
What? Like for permanence?
Because Tracy set up all of these alerts on these various animal shelter and humane rescue sites and never turned them off after we got Ziggy. And apparently there was a giant puppy mill somewhere in Texas that was busted. And
is this that one she was showing pictures of us to last week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's not that puppy specifically, but it's one of his litter mates.
Okay.
So apparently that puppy has been adopted. And we were sent a picture of this very adorable puppy that is apparently one of his sisters, I would guess. And she's super cute, but she also has, I think, a fucked up toe. Like she has a mild deformity. I'll have to show you guys. We might be going to see her on Saturday and maybe bring her home. So we'll have to see how that goes for sure. But here, I'll show you the picture of her if this ever decides to quit loading or finish loading. Dun, 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 dun.
Animals are really good if they have like something really nasty they need to have removed like that sometimes.
Yeah.
They adapt pretty well.
Well, and this is like, it's just it's like a little toe.
It looks like a dew claw, but it's in the wrong place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of, it looks like it's just a minor deformity on one of her paws.
Go for it.
Yeah, she's super cute. Look at that sweet little face. So, yeah, we might be getting another puppy here very soon. What else? I think that might be it. Oh, like I have Achilles. I have tendonitis in my right Achilles. That sucks. Hurts a lot. I think it's from the golfing. I got an appointment on Monday to go and talk to the doctor about it. Getting old, man. Breaking down, falling the fuck apart.
Humans don't do as well with getting that kind of stuff removed, so I don't recommend you getting it removed.
Ooh! That just reminded me, I have to show you guys something during the break. Remind me.
Leave your pants on, Dan.
No, I have to show you guys something. You'll dig it during the break. And it'll be our little secret.
Okay.
What else? We have been hinting at doing an episode on placebos. I was planning on doing that this evening, but then the debate kind of took over, and I didn't get everything done that I wanted to get done on the placebo episode. That will be coming out soon, shortly, here within the next month. We have a couple other things planned, so that will be coming out shortly. I think that is about it, and we should get into the debate.
Yeah, it might be a long one.
Yeah, it'll be good. So we'll see you on the other side of this little break here.
Okay.
This is Dr. Hector Garcia, author of Alpha God and Sex, Power, and Partisanship, and you are listening to Godless Rebelution.
Looking at two-state and one-state, and I like the one that both parties like. I'm very happy with the one that both parties like. I can live with either one.
Rejoining the Godless Rebelution podcast now.
Okay, before we start talking about tonight's debate, I want to talk about one thing that stood out and stuck in my craw about last night. And I've been having discussions / arguments with people about it all day today because I made a comment on Facebook and people are weighing in on it.
And I didn't comment on Facebook because I know I'd be talking with you today.
Yeah. So we can talk about it amongst ourselves this evening. There was this moment in the debate last night with Senator Warren that bothered me, and we'll get to why after the clip that we're going to play.
Senator Warren, we're going to get to the gun question here. Parkland, Florida, it's just north of here in Broward County. As you know, it has created a lot of teenage activism on the gun issue. It has inspired a lot of you to come out with more robust plans to deal with guns, including assault weapons ban. But even if you're able to implement that, what do you do about the hundreds of millions of guns already out there? And does the federal government have to play a role in dealing with it?
So, in this period of time that I've been running for president, I've had more than 100 town halls. I've taken more than 2,000 unfiltered questions. And the single hardest question I've gotten, I got one from a little boy and I got one from a little girl. And that is to say, when you're president, how are you going to keep us safe? That's our responsibility as adults. 7 children will die today from gun violence, children and teenagers. And they won't just die in mass shootings. They'll die on sidewalks, they'll die in playgrounds, they'll die in people's backyards. Gun violence is a national health emergency in this country, and we need to treat it like that. So what can we do? We can do the things that are sensible. We can do the universal background checks. We can ban the weapons of war. But we can also double down on the research and find out what really works, where it is that we can make the differences at the margins that will keep our children safe. We need to treat this like the virus that's killing our children.
You didn't address...
Well, for me, it was the next thing he says.
Yeah, well, I mean, he asked her the question initially, and she didn't quite answer it, and so he does a bit of a follow-up with her.
But do you think the federal government needs to go and figure out a way to get the guns that are already out there?
What I think we need to do is we need to treat it like a serious research problem, which we have not done. Okay. You know, guns in the hands of a collector who's had them for decades, who's never fired them, who takes safety seriously, that's very different from guns that are sold and turned over quickly. We can't treat this as an across-the-board problem. We have to treat it like a public health emergency. That means bring data to bear, and it means make real change in this country, whether it's politically popular or not.
Senator Booker,
And so I've now watched this clip probably 6 times today, in addition to
last night,
watching it last night. And I think last night when I first watched it, I think my view of it has softened in talking about it with others, but so when I heard him ask the question and she didn't answer it, and then he had to ask it again and she still didn't answer it, and then immediately following that, you could hear Chuck Todd ask, turn to Cory Booker and ask him a question, and Cory Booker was very passionate and I think addressed the question. I don't even know that he necessarily laid out a good plan for it at all, but
I think he followed the same line of thought. It was like, hey, we need common sense gun laws. We need to restrict weapons of war. Kind of the same line that Elizabeth Warren started off with, saying getting rid of that stuff.
Yeah.
But where I agree with her is...
Well, and I totally agree with everything she said.
Yeah.
What bothered me about it is that she didn't answer the question, and it felt like a dodge to me. It felt like politispeak, weasel words, non sequitur, changing the subject, red herring, all of these things that she didn't answer the direct question that was asked of her. And I know for myself, that's a point of frustration when I'm talking to people, because I'm so busy all the time that if I ask somebody a question, I'm looking for an answer to the question I just asked. Like, I don't need a long story about anything. I don't need a bunch of background, anything. Just answer the question that I asked, and then we can move forward. If I have more questions about it, I'll ask you. If you think there's more that you need to say, you can say, this is my answer, but, and then add to it. But to start out on a bunch of stuff, and this is a frustration I have with Tracy all the time, because she's very long-winded and adds a bunch of extraneous detail that I
just get to the point.
Almost inevitably, when she's trying to relate some story to me, by the end of it, I'm just like, oh my God, what? I've tuned out about halfway through what you were saying. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get better about that, but please, what's the main thrust of the thing you're trying to communicate here? I think it's just a matter of having very limited time for other stuff. And so I try to get things done as fast as possible and as efficiently as possible.
And well, if she's got 60 seconds to speak on it, of course she's going to say her heart, emotional side of it as well.
Right, yeah.
But I also think...
Yeah, she will. Women, am I right?
Well, the guys do it too. But I also felt the question got a little loaded there, where it was, are you basically going to use the federal government to go and take people's guns away from them?
Yeah, it was. And, the initial question I don't think was quite as loaded. The follow-up was, I think, more pointed and direct.
Yeah.
And that was
because that's what he wanted out of the first part. He's kind of hinting at that in the first part.
Didn't really, well, and he didn't even hint at it. He said, what role should the federal government play in this, and should they have a role in it? And then when she didn't answer it, he made it more pointed and direct to say, you didn't really answer the question that I asked. Here's the question again. And then she still didn't really answer it.
Well, I mean, at the first part, I think she answered a little bit by saying the federal government should do the actual proper research and data collection and all this, which they're not allowed to right now because the NRA had laws passed to not be able to collect as much data.
But what does that have to do with the question of what do we do with the guns that are out there already?
Well, that was the second part of the question.
Can I pose a question to you, Dan?
Yes.
How many people do you think would support taking guns away completely?
More than 5. I don't know. I think there's a growing number of people.
Do you think that's above 10 or 15% of the population?
I don't think know. So. I would say maybe 10% of taking guns away completely. But that wasn't the question he asked really either.
No, but that's going into that territory is a campaign killer.
And I think that's kind of the line he was going down.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to have the federal government go into people's homes and take their firearms?
That's how it sounded like to me.
Physically away. That's how like.
Well, and then she could, but even then, so then she could have just said, "No, I'm not going to send the federal government around to take away everybody's guns. That's not going to happen." Right? That was the question he asked. She could have issued that straightforward.
Unless she wants to do that,
then she should have said that. Right? Like I don't.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't want to have to, and I had this discussion, Taylor and I were chatting.
The political speak.
Yeah, well, Taylor and I were chatting about this earlier, and I told him, there's a bunch of different ways that you could interpret or take what she said, because she wasn't direct and clear about it. And I don't want to have to fucking interpret what somebody has said. I want them to speak clearly, plainly, and directly, and honestly. And if she's not going to do that, then that's a bit of a problem for me. I love Elizabeth Warren. I think she's awesome. She's my favorite of everybody that's currently running.
Really?
Yeah, she's currently my favorite. I love that she has well thought out, reasoned plans. I think she's a great communicator. She's passionate. She's awesome. I really love her. And so to me, I think I had been expecting more and better from her, and I thought this fell short of my expectations. And maybe my expectations are too high. Or maybe, I don't know. There are a bunch of different ways that you could take what she said and read a bunch of different things into it. And I think that's a problem. That's a problem with politics, is that it's the same thing as fucking religion. Like, somebody can say something and you ask 50 different people what they just said and how they interpreted it, and you'll get 50 different fucking answers.
Yeah.
Because they weren't clear and concise, direct and honest.
And well, like when Sarah and I were watching it last night, we kind of both made the comment to each other, like, well, actually, to us, we're like, that wasn't a bad response because...
No, I don't think it was a bad response either. And that's the other point, too. Like, the post I made on Facebook was that I didn't like or wasn't pleased with her or didn't, her basically Elizabeth Warren equivocating on the question of guns I didn't like. And so many people read so much more into that. Like, don't interpret what I'm saying. Read the fucking words. I'm disappointed that she equivocated because she didn't answer the direct question. She did. It was the textbook definition of equivocation. She changed what the subject was and what her answer was so as to obfuscate what the answer would be to the direct question she was asked.
So would you have liked it better to have her say, I don't have enough data on this yet to know exactly what to do, but I want to have that data.
Absolutely.
I want that data collected, and I want to have it researched to find out where are the problem areas. Because she kind of said that a little bit, but she didn't say, I don't have the information.
Yeah.
She just kind of said, I want to collect the information and then make a decision afterwards. And
that's, she didn't even say we need to collect the information and then I'll make a decision. She didn't address the question.
What?
And was asked twice, and the second time very directly, and like you said, it was a bit of a loaded question. And she could have just been much more direct, concise, and honest about it. And then there would be no debate that I've had with a bunch of different people. Like we would all know, oh no, this is what she said, this is what she meant. And she did answer the question.
I guess the way I interpreted her answer was saying, I want to do data-driven legislation, not emotional-driven legislation.
Yeah, and I'm all for that. I think that's the best way to go. But she didn't say that.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, it possibly could be interpreted that she did, but was much more verbose about it. It bothered me as being political speak and redirection or misdirection in trying to answer what I thought was, especially after he asked it the second time, was a very pointed and direct question. It deserved, I think, a very pointed and direct answer. Even if it was, I don't know, we need to find out more data before I can come to a conclusion on that, or before I can make a decision on that. But we can't get to that point because we're not even allowed to do any studies or gather information and do research on this yet.
Well, I guess the other question is, do you think that was a good follow-up question that he asked?
The second time?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was basically the same question, but much more direct.
Yeah.
I think it's a fine question if you're going to answer it honestly. And I think the honest and best answer she could have given is exactly what we've said here is, I don't know for sure yet. Or, I don't know for sure yet. We need to do more research and gather more data on it. And it just, I don't know. She took the long way around and didn't address it. But like I said, I'm also softening on it, and I can see maybe my snap judgment was not the best judgment to make there, but it still rubs me the wrong way because I expected better and didn't get what I was expecting.
I guess on one hand, and this is me interpreting what Chuck Todd, how he asked the question. On one hand, of course, you have to use the federal government in order to enforce. If you have federal sweeping gun laws, of course you need the federal government to help enforce those gun laws, whether that's making sure the states are following the laws or make sure that a federal database is being built.
Sending in jackbooted thugs into people's homes, holding them down while you strip away their precious metals and guns.
But that's where I think he was leading. It was that direction, was being, are you going to use the federal government to literally go to people's homes and remove the firearms from them instead of letting the citizen themselves turn the guns in?
Yeah. Yeah, instead of like a voluntary
buyback. Like a voluntary buyback, are you going to make them...
And she could have even asked a clarifying question like that. Yeah. Like, are you talking about a program like a buyback program, or are you asking me if I'm going to send
federal agents
into people's homes to confiscate their weapons? Like, any of these answers, I think, would have been better than the one she gave. Not that the answer she gave was even bad or wrong. I agreed with everything that she said there. It's just, like I said, I was expecting more, and she could have been more direct and honest about it.
She needs to take some Claritin.
Even if it killed her campaign?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. What the fuck is the point of running for office if you're not going to do what you say you're going to do, and if you're not talking about the things that you're actually going to do? Like, what the fuck is the point of even running
getting elected?
To do what? Based on what? Based on a house of lies that then when you get in office, everybody's going to bitch about that you're
well,
not
that's kind of what we got right now.
Yeah, that's the way it works now. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and how happy is everybody about
No, I agree with you. I'm just throwing out a couple of other little loose ends that were in there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like I said, I don't know why people feel like they have to lie so much. They don't. Like, say what you think and feel and believe, and if people don't like it, then either ask them why and adjust your thoughts and feelings about something if you're in the wrong, or if they're wrong, then they can go fuck themselves. Like, it doesn't seem that difficult to me, but maybe I'm being too black and white in my thinking there. But right. I don't know. I think it probably goes back to my bias against liars and my need to try to get things done as quickly as possible all the time because I've got so much shit going on. I don't know. There's a lot of things to play into it. We're all fucking messy apes, man.
Well, all I know is this. If we take the rest of the questions in tonight's debate like we did this one, it'll be a 10-hour long show.
Yeah. So let's not do that. We'll hurry. We'll be much more expedient. But I thought this needed to be addressed because I've been arguing with people about it all day. Well, arguing with one person primarily who was just kind of being a shit. Like I that's the other thing that really bothers me when I am trying to have a discussion with people online and they're really sarcastic and flippant and just shit posting and shit commenting. Like, what the fuck are like? It makes me just want to block them immediately. Like, if you're not going to have an honest conversation with me, then what the fuck are you wasting my time for? That again ties back to lying and time. Like wasting my time and lying about shit or being dishonest or not seeking to have an honest discussion and conversation about something, just seeking to score points. That fucking bothers me.
You know who Steve Hofstadter is?
Name sounds familiar.
Comedian. He's known for putting up his videos online of people when they heckle him. He puts them on Facebook and he just destroys hecklers.
Yeah.
So more people turn up to heckle him. So people know that you like to get into arguments on Facebook. So I wonder if some people just show up just to argue with you.
That could be. I was going to say I also fucking hate hecklers. Like, I didn't pay to listen to you, random crowd fucker, stand up or just yell shit from your fucking pie hole. I paid good money to see a performer do their work, and you're fucking it up. Sit down, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
That bothers me. So many things in the world bother me, Ryan. Matt, I just don't know. All right. So let's move on to
the tonight's debate.
Tonight's debate. Yeah, I've got last night's debate here and the clip exclusively of Warren's thing.
There we are.
Here we are. Here's tonight's debate. Okay, let's get into it.
You have it. Night 2 of the first round of Democratic debates from Miami. They begin now.
Oh, wow, that was louder.
Good evening, I'm Lester Holt, and welcome to night 2 of the first Democratic debate.
Well, now it seems really low. Did you turn it down?
Yeah, I was just turning it down, because I bet there'll be some points where we'll talk over them while they're doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, sure. We should probably skip forward a bit here.
Yeah, because...
We'll skip forward.
This is just them So, while we're getting ready here, we noticed that on their tables they're sitting at... They have the photos.
The moderators.
Yeah, the moderators. They have the photos lined up on the tables of all the people that are up on stage, like they don't know their names.
like they need a little
I think
cheat sheet pictogram.
I think they borrowed this from sports announcers.
Oh yeah, is it with sports announcers too?
I think so, because every once in a while you'll see like some deep roster spot player catch a ball or something,
and they know the
announcers name. Number 15 with the catch, and they're like flipping through their notebook.
Fuck, who's wearing 15 tonight?
That's what I imagine the people that announce horse races have to do the same thing.
Probably.
There's no way you can remember all those fucked up horse names.
Like Secretariat. So weird.
No, that's an easy one, but
I know I'm just kidding. Some of
bacon and waffles. Bacon and waffles is second. Bacon and waffles is second. Yeah. Randy's in third.
Randy.
Yeah.
So we were talking also while we were watching this upstairs and drinking beer and eating pizza.
Yeah.
The positioning of candidates on the stage, and we've decided we're not entirely sure that this is the case, but we've decided that it must be that the top contenders or front runners are placed in the center of the stage at the center podiums, and then as your poll numbers and support dwindle, you are then spread to the right and left of center.
Which we're all betting is it looks
just,
like that.
Just based on the people who are in the wings and who's in the center,
Yeah.
that's what it looks to be. And I'm happy to see Marianne Williams at the far end of the stage. I'm also happy to see John Hickenlooper at the far end of the stage.
Well, they're afraid of her goop.
There are some candidates running who I think should not be, and I'm sure will be dropping out within the next month or so. Williams, I hope, is one of them, but she's very tenacious, so she may stay around even if she's not gaining more support. And
until the money's gone?
Well, she has a bunch of money herself. She is a guru. She's a woo-monger. She is, she pals around with Oprah and celebrities offering them spiritual advice, and it's all airy-fairy, nonsensical. Well, some of it makes sense, and some of it is good advice, but a lot of it is just very fucking wooey, Deepak Chopra-ish bullshit.
You just almost cited half of Tim Minchin's Storm.
Yeah, it's very much like that kind of bullshit.
And if you haven't heard that, go fucking listen to it.
In a recent interview, you said you suspected that Americans would be, quote, delighted to pay more taxes for things like that. My question to you is, will taxes go up for the middle class in a Sanders administration? And if so, how do you sell that to voters?
Well, you're quite right. We have a new vision for America. And at a time when we have 3 people in this country owning more wealth than the bottom half of America, while 500,000 people are sleeping out on the streets today, we think it is time for change, real change. And by that I mean that health care, in my view, is a human right. And we have got to pass a Medicare for all single-payer system. Under that system...
Now we just need to figure out who all the humans are.
Well, and he also didn't answer the question right away either.
Yeah.
And he continues not to answer the full question next.
Yeah.
By the way, vast majority of the people in this country will be paying significantly less for health care than they are right now. I believe that education is
like
the
phone
future
ringing in the
for
background.
this country.
Someone probably has their phone in their pocket.
That is why I believe that we must make public colleges and universities tuition free and eliminate student debt, and we do that by placing a tax on Wall Street. Every proposal that I have brought forth is fully paid for.
Senator Sanders, I'll give you 10 seconds just to answer the very direct question. Will you raise taxes for the middle class in a Sanders administration?
People who have health care under Medicare for All will have no premiums, no deductibles, no co-payments, no out-of-pocket expenses. Yes, they will pay more in taxes, but less in health care for what they get.
Thank you, Senator.
And we've talked about that point on the show several different times, and it's a tricky point to get across to people, but yeah, he needs to work on his elevator pitch for that. Like, you're going to raise my taxes? What do you mean you're going to raise my taxes? Because people want free shit on top of free shit. They don't want to have to pay their taxes, and they want free medical care. It doesn't fucking work.
Like, okay, so what? Your average person is paying between $500 and close to $1,000 a month. A lot of people that have their own private health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? You won't be paying that much in the tax.
Yeah,
so you won't be paying that $500 to $1,000 a month. Instead, you might be paying $150 in taxes. And guess what? When they go to the fucking hospital, you don't owe them another fucking $500 to go see the doctor or the emergency room visit.
Yeah. Well, and even if it were in a straight across trade where all of the money that I'm currently paying toward my healthcare plan was diverted directly to taxes, and then everything my employer was paying is diverted directly to taxes, like, it's not going to change my paycheck at all. What it will change is the fact that I don't have to fucking deal with an insurance company anymore. I don't have to deal with fucking co-pays. I don't have to deal with fucking deductibles, any of that bullshit. I just go to the fucking doctor. That's all I have to do.
So yes, you are paying more in taxes, but your actual take-home pay
will be
more or not affected at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
you'll have a lot more peace of mind.
Yeah. And
you won't have to worry about filing bankruptcy because you get cancer.
Right. And then not having to wade through all of that paperwork and bullshit just to go see a fucking doctor.
Or, oh, wait, is my insurance going to pay for this or not?
Right. Yeah.
Senator Bennet, we're going to get to everybody, I promise, but let me just, Senator Biden, promise everybody's going to get in here, promise. Vice President Biden, Senator Sanders, as you know, has been calling for a revolution. Recently, in remarks to a group of wealthy donors, as you were speaking about the problem of income inequality in this country, you said, we shouldn't, quote, demonize the rich. You said, nobody has to be punished. No one's standard of living would change. Nothing would fundamentally change. What did you mean by that?
What I meant by that is, look, Donald Trump thinks Wall Street built America. Ordinary middle-class Americans build America. My dad used to have an expression. He said, Joe, a job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's being able to look your kid in the eye and say everything's going to be okay. Too many people who are in the middle class and poor have had the bottom fall out under this proposal. What I'm saying is that we've got to be straightforward. We have to make sure we understand that to return dignity to the middle class, they have to have insurance that is covered and they can afford it. They have to make sure that we're in a situation where there's continuing education and they're able to pay for it. And they have to make sure that they're able to breathe air that is clean and they have water that they can drink. Look, Donald Trump has put us in a horrible situation. We do have enormous income inequality. And the one thing I agree on is we can make massive cuts in the $1.6 trillion in tax loopholes out there. And I would be going about eliminating Donald Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy.
Vice President Biden, thank you.
Now, you'll notice that he mentioned Trump a couple different times in that answer. And that was one of the criticisms, for lack of a better word, of last night's debate, is that Trump was basically a non-entity. Nobody even discussed him. He was never brought up. And, you know, in the post-debate wrap-up where they go into the spin room and they're interviewing candidates and everything, you know, that question was brought up to a lot of the different candidates. None of them had a very solid answer. And Tracy was sitting there, who really only pays attention to politics because she kind of has to, because I have the shit on at the house all the time, whether it's in my office or in the kitchen or downstairs or whatever. Like, I have the news going all the time. And if she gets bored of it or is tired of it, she just goes into another room. Or she says, I can't fucking watch this bastard anymore. I'm going to the other room. But so she was sitting there and she just turned to me and she said, well, why the fuck should they have to talk about Donald Trump at all? We're not here. Like, we all know that they oppose Donald Trump. That's why they're running for president. Him. Like, that seems silly that they would have to state that in addition to running, you know, that they oppose Donald Trump. Of course they oppose him. That's the whole fucking point of them being on stage right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting that he, out of the gate, he must have heard a bunch of that criticism and thought, well, I'm going to go at the president. Or he thinks that because he's the current front runner, maybe he needs to take a more direct shot at the president. He's already set himself a little bit more apart from the rest of the pack, and so then he can attack who may be his opponent in the actual election.
In a year from now.
Yeah.
Senator Harris, there's a lot of talk in this primary about new government benefits, such as student loan cancellation, free college, health care, and more. Do you think that Democrats have a responsibility to explain how they will pay for every proposal they make along those lines?
Well, let me tell you something. I hear that question, but where was that question when the Republicans and Donald Trump passed a tax bill that benefits the top 1%?
Yes.
Of corporations in this country, contributing at least $1 trillion to the debt of America, which middle-class families will pay for one way or another. Working families need support and need to be lifted up, and frankly, this economy is not working for working people. For too long, the rules have been written in the favor of the people who have the most and not in favor of the people who work the most, which is why I am proposing that we change the tax code. So for every family that is making less than $100,000 a year, they will receive a tax credit that they can collect up to $500 a month, which will make all the difference between those families being able to get through the end of the month with dignity and with support or not. And on day one, I will repeal that tax bill that benefits the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America.
I think that was a great answer.
Yeah,
that was a very populist answer. I like that a lot.
And I've heard a few people argue that the new Trump tax plan, you are saving money. You get more in your paycheck. I'm like, motherfucker, my paycheck ain't changed, and I'm also paying an extra $1,000 in taxes at the end of the year.
Yeah.
He doesn't change your withholdings.
No. Well, that's your employer's job.
Or your not your withholdings, your dependents.
Well,
dependents, yeah.
Even with me, I have no dependents. I had zero changes.
But that's what affects how much you get back or how much you pay throughout the year, right?
It's a big part of it.
Well, it's a part of it, but because I claim zero throughout the whole year, and I claim zero when I do my taxes. And I've done that my whole life, but this last year compared to the other years, it was $1,000 less. I paid $1,000 more,
and then you got $1,000 less.
Well, I would have if I would have had gotten my return. I had to pay back that first time home buyer. I had to pay back that credit. If I wouldn't have had to pay back that credit, I would have gotten $1,000 less in my rebate compared to the previous years.
Senator Harris, thank you. Governor Hickenlooper, let me get you in on this. You've warned that Democrats will lose in 2020 if they embrace socialism, as you put it. You were booed at the California Democratic Convention when you said that.
Wonder why?
And he should have been, because it was a stupid fucking comment to make. And he's going to be dropping out of the race very soon.
Only one candidate on this stage, Senator Sanders, identifies himself as a democratic socialist. What are the policies or positions of your opponents that you think are veering towards socialism?
Well, I think that the bottom line is if we don't clearly define that we are not socialists, the Republicans are going to come at us every way they can and call us socialists.
So fucking what? Let them call you the socialist. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, are you looking to get, or do you actually think that you would get, or any of the Democratic candidates would get votes from a Republican who would view anybody as a socialist? Like, that's not going to fucking happen. The people that would say that you're a socialist and follow along with that are never going to fucking vote for you anyway, you stupid shithead.
Well, socialism pays their paycheck.
And we have enough young... Yeah, we have enough young voters who don't care about the scary socialist word.
Yeah.
That if they all got out and voted, it wouldn't matter what the baby boomers thought anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a dumb thing to say at that convention when he was booed, and it's a dumb thing to say now.
And if you look at the Green New Deal, which I admire the sense of urgency and how important it is to do climate change. I'm a scientist, but we can't promise every American a government job. If you want to get universal health care coverage, I believe that health care is a right and not a privilege. But you can't expect to eliminate private insurance for 180 million people, many of whom don't want to give it up. In Colorado, we brought businesses and nonprofits together. We got near universal health care coverage. We were the first state in America to bring the environmental community and the oil and gas industry to aggressively address methane emissions. And we were also the first place to expand reproductive rights on a scale basis, and we reduced teen pregnancy by 54%. We've done the big progressive things that people said couldn't be done. I've done what pretty much everyone else up here is still talking about doing.
Right, Governor, thank you, Senator
Except
Sanders.
for a single-payer healthcare system.
Yeah.
And free school.
Yeah. The things that he thinks are socialist programs.
So I'll give you a chance to weigh in here. What is your response to those?
He's not worried about what. It's not that he thinks they're socialist. He's worried what the Republicans will say about them.
Oh yeah, yeah, which is even worse.
Yeah, that's worse.
Nominating a socialist would re-elect Donald Trump?
Well, I think the responses at the polls, last poll I saw had us 10 points ahead of Donald Trump, because the American people understand that Trump is a phony, that Trump is a pathological liar and a racist.
I fucking love that he said that. Yeah. That is fucking wonderful and amazing.
Not even sugarcoating it.
Yeah. Fucking, this is what I
Trump
think, and just being open and honest about it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna check Trump's Twitter right now.
There was absolutely no fucking politispeak there. It was calling a spade a spade. Like, I think Donald Trump is a pathological liar and a racist. No, oh, well, he throws out dog whistles and there are people, white nationalists, whatever, who follow him and think that he's great. No, he's a fucking liar and a racist. Both of those things are absolutely true.
Hey gang, this is Jack Materko from For Infernal Use Only and the Naked Diner podcast, and you are listening to The Godless Rebelution.
All appropriate departments of our government, from Homeland Security to Defense, are engaged fully in the disaster and the response and recovery effort probably has never been seen for something like this. This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water.
You and the Godless Revolution will be reassimilated in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, you're looking at Donald Trump's Twitter?
I'm confused.
Oh, yeah?
All Democrats just raised their hands for giving millions of illegal aliens unlimited health care. How about taking care of American citizens first? That's the end of the race.
Yeah, Jesus. I'm sure, well, it's because we're behind. He's addressing
Well, that was over an hour ago.
Yeah, well, we're more than an hour behind, so.
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh. But it's on the healthcare thing, so we'll see when that comes up. When that comes up, I'll read that again.
Okay.
And that he lied to the American people during his campaign. He said he was going to stand up for working families. Well, President Trump, you're not standing up for working families when you try to throw 32 million people off the health care that they have, and that 83% of your tax benefits go to the top 1%. That's how we beat Trump. We expose him for the fraud that he is.
I fucking love that answer. That was awesome. I still really like
I disagree with both their perspectives. The debate we're having in our party right now is confusing because the truth is there's a big difference between capitalism on the one hand and greed on the other. And so all the things that we're trying to change is when companies care more about profits when they do about people. So if you're talking about ending gun violence, it's the greed of the NRA and the gun manufacturers that make any progress impossible. It's the greed of the insurance companies and the drug companies when we want to try to get health care as a right and not a privilege. So there need not be disagreement in the party because in truth, we want healthy capitalism. We don't want corrupted capitalism.
Thank you. I want to be fair to all the candidates. Thank you. Senator Bennet, you have said, quote, it's possible to write policy proposals that have no basis in reality. You might as well call them candy. Were you referring to any candidate or proposal in particular when you said that?
Was that directed to me?
Yes, that was your quote.
That sounded like me. Thank you.
It was you.
I appreciate it.
He seems like a pretty decent guy.
I agree completely with Bernie about what the fundamental challenge we're facing as a country is. 40 years of no economic growth for 90% of the American people. 160,000 families in the top 0.1% have the same wealth as the bottom 90%, and we've got the worst income inequality that we've had in 100 years. Where I disagree is on his solution on Medicare for all. I have proposed getting to universal health care, which we need to do. It is a right. Health care is a right. We need to get to universal health care. I believe the way to do that is by finishing the work we started with Obamacare and creating a public option that every family and every person in America can make a choice for their family about whether they want a public option, which for them would be like having Medicare for all, or whether they want to keep their private insurance. I believe we will get there much more quickly if we do that. Bernie, if I could just finish, Bernie mentioned that the taxes that we would have to pay, because of those taxes, Vermont rejected Medicare for all.
Senator, because they didn't understand it.
Senator, please. We are going to talk about health care at length, Senator, but for the moment, my colleague can say, continue the question.
I wrote the part in Senator Sanders' bill. I wrote the part in Senator Sanders' bill that is the transition, which merges what the two senators said. Because the truth is, if you have a buy-in over a 4 or 5 year period, you move us to single payer more quickly.
Senator, we will get to this. We will get to this.
Before we do, that's the other problem with having this fucking many people on stage is that you can't.
Which is why they broke it up into 2 nights, but still a lot of people on stage for both nights.
Yeah.
But the thing that worries, I think his thing would cost more money. Because if you keep the system of, private insurance, and then there's this single payer kind of thing over here that you can buy into, how does that help?
Yeah, it seems a weird thing. Like it's not a very good way to transition, I think. I don't know. I'd have to see the specific proposal and how he plans to carry it out, but it does sound like it would just cause more confusion and cost more.
Well, it would definitely cost more because if you stayed with the option of you're paying for a different option, and a lot of people go with the state option, well, the other option's got to raise their costs because there's fewer people on it versus just dying out like the dinosaur it is.
Yeah. I think probably the best way to handle it is just to say, the government is rolling out a single-payer option. This is what you get for it. You can sign up for it or not. You can continue to maintain your private healthcare insurance if you want, but the government has a single-payer solution available for you. But then how do you...
I think health insurance companies, if they want to stay in the business, they're going to have to pivot.
Yeah.
It's no longer going to be for going in for...
That'll be Aflac.
Well, I'm going more for... Like, if you're going to have elective surgeries, something that your health insurance normally doesn't pay for anyways, they would have to pivot into a market for that. Be like, okay, well, we'll cover elective surgeries. This is for an added thing on top of your healthcare plan, where your healthcare plan takes care of, you break a bone, you get sick, you get injured, your healthcare takes care of that. If you want to go get LASIK, if you want to go have plastic surgery, if you want to go have any of these elective things done, well, here's an insurance plan you can buy into if you're doing that kind of stuff, or just to have there in case you decide to. So you don't have to pay as much.
Well, that's not even really an insurance plan then. That's more like a group membership thing where...
Well, that's probably going to be about their only option.
Yeah.
If they want to try to stay afloat in some kind of market.
Yeah. Yeah, the transition to a single-payer plan is going to be messy for sure.
Well, because the other big part about a single-payer plan is that it also fixed costs across the board.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that if I go to this hospital, it's going to cost me $10,000 for hip replacement, but if I go to the one across the street, it's going to cost $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's that surgery costs $1 amount no matter what.
Yeah. And you, as the person going to see the doctor, don't even really have to
care about
yourself.
that. It's the hospitals are basically told, hey, this is what we pay for this surgery. Done.
Yeah.
I want to say hello and good evening, buenas noches to Mayor Buttigieg.
Buenas noches, gracias de invitarnos.
Gusto en verlo, caballero. Many of your colleagues on stage support free college. You do not. Why not?
Sure. So college affordability is personal for us. Chasten and I have six-figure student debt. I believe in reducing student debt. It's logical to me that if you can refinance your house, you ought to be able to refinance your student debt. I also believe in free college for low and middle-income students for whom cost could be a barrier. I just don't believe it makes sense to ask working-class families to subsidize even the children of billionaires. I think the children of the wealthiest Americans can pay at least a little bit of tuition. And while I want tuition costs to go down, I don't think we can buy down every last penny for them. Now, there's something else that doesn't get talked about in the college affordability debate. Yes, it needs to be more affordable in this country to go to college. It also needs to be more affordable in this country to not go to college. You should be able to live well, afford rent, be generous to your church and Little League, whether you went to college or not. That's one of many reasons we need to raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour.
Jose, I've got $100,000 in student loan debt myself.
Let me get to you.
I count on the people
I got a story too.
For the last 30 years who were around when this problem was created to be the ones to solve it. It's going to be the next generation, the 40 million of us who can't start a family, can't take a good idea and start a business, and can't buy our first home. This is the generation that's going to be able to solve student loan debt. This generation is ready to lead.
Mr. Yang, your signature policy is to give every adult in the United States $1,000 a month, no questions asked.
That's right.
I think that's like $3.2 trillion.
The only candidate not in a dress or a tie.
How would you do that?
Yeah.
Sorry? How would you do that?
Oh, so it's difficult to do if you have companies like Amazon, trillion-dollar tech companies paying literally zero in taxes while they're closing 30% of our stores. Now, we need to put the American people in position to benefit from all these innovations in other parts of the economy. And if we had a value-added tax at even half the European level, it would generate over $800 billion in new revenue, which combined with the money in our hands, it would be the trickle-up economy from our people, families, and communities up. We would spend the money and it would circulate through our regional economies and neighborhoods, creating millions of jobs, making our families stronger and healthier. We'd save money on things like incarceration, homelessness services, emergency room health care, and just the value gains from having a stronger, healthier, mentally healthier population would increase GDP by $700 billion. This is the move that we have to make, particularly as technology is now automating away millions of American jobs. It's why Donald Trump is our president today, that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And we're about to do the same thing to millions of retail jobs, call center jobs, fast food jobs, truck driving jobs, and on through the economy.
Mr. Ryan, if I get you understand a little bit better, so you're saying $1,000 a month for everyone over 18, but a value-added tax, so you can spend that $1,000 on value-added tax?
Well, the value-added tax would end up, you'd still be increasing the buying power of the bottom 94% of Americans. You have to spend a lot of money for a mild value-added tax to eat up $12,000 a year per individual. So for the average family with 2 or 3 adults, it'd be $24,000 to $36,000 a year. Okay,
Congressman Swalwell, I want to talk a little bit about what Mr. Yang is talking about, and you just actually...
So I am just looking over the people on stage right now. I think the only person who has not said anything yet is Marianne. Right? She's the only candidate thus far who has not said anything throughout the...
She hasn't tried to chime in.
Yeah.
I'm a little fuzzy on this value-added tax thing.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what it is.
Okay.
Either.
Might have to do some research on that.
Yeah, we can look it up later.
He mentioned that many Americans are worried that things like self-driving cars, robots, drones, artificial intelligence will cost them their jobs. What would you do to help people get the skills they need to adapt to this new world?
We must always be a country where technology creates more jobs than it displaces. And I've seen the anxiety across America.
That's kind of the opposite of how it works.
Really hard, yeah.
1,000 to 100 to 1. So we have to modernize our schools, value the teachers who prepare our kids, wipe the student debt from any teacher that goes into a community that needs it, invest in America's communities, especially where places where the best exports are people
saying that because the left side of his face is cyborg.
I was 6 years old when a presidential candidate came to the California Democratic Convention and said, "It's time to pass the torch to a new generation of Americans." That candidate was then Senator Joe Biden. Joe Biden was right when he said it was time to pass the torch to a new generation.
That was a double-edged whammy, right? Like he's trying to appeal to younger voters. He's trying to get all the youngsters to vote Swalwell,
and
while also poking
the big guy.
Biden. I remember when I was 6 years old and Joe Biden was saying great things. Now I'm an adult and he's old and he's not saying great things.
Generation of Americans 32 years ago. He's still right today. If we're going to solve the issues of automation, pass the torch. If we're going to solve the issues of climate chaos, pass the torch. If we're going to solve the issue of student loan debt, pass the torch. If we're going to end gun violence for families who are fearful of sending their kids to school, pass the torch.
Get the fuck out of the way, old man. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. But the look on Joe's face is like, well played.
Yeah,
well
good line.
played.
Good line, buddy.
Mr. President, would you like to sing a torch song?
I would. I'm still holding on to that torch. I want to make it clear to you. Look, the fact of the matter is, what we have to do is make sure that everybody is prepared better to go on to educate for an education. The fact is that's why I propose us focusing on schools that are in distress. That's why I think we should triple the amount of money we spend for Title I schools. That's why I think we should have universal pre-K. That's why I think every single person who graduates from high school, 65 out of 100 now, need something beyond high school. And we should provide for them to be able to get that education. That's why there should be free community college, cutting in half the cost of college. That's why we should be in a position where we do not have anyone have to pay back a student debt when they get out. They are making less than $25,000 a year. Their debt is frozen, no interest payment until they get beyond that. We can't put people in a position where they aren't able to go on and move on. And so, folks, there's a lot we can do, but we have to make continuing education available for everyone so that everyone can compete in the 21st century.
Goddamn, $25,000 a year. That's the limit at which you would set having to pay back your student loans. Like, how the fuck can you live on $25,000 a year as your salary? Then you've got all of your taxes and other deductions taken out of there. Then your rent. Then you're like, that $25,000 a year is less than a $15 per hour minimum.
Oh, way less.
So he's saying that if you're making less than what should be the minimum wage that we have now,
yeah.
Well, of course. Like,
Yeah.
I think that $25,000 level needs to be raised quite a bit.
Yeah, like 4 times.
Well, I would say probably I would say probably 50 or 60, like at least double that. Like if you're not making that much, then their student loan debt is suspended or payments on it is suspended, because that's just, I would like to see Joe Biden try to live on $25,000 a year.
Yeah, he's never had to do it.
Yeah.
I just had to do the math on it. So throughout the whole year, I pay just under $15,000 in mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
They probably aren't even getting $15,000 after taxes.
No,
if your income is $25,000 a year.
No, dude, and even the rent is too goddamn high. The rent here in Utah is
ridiculous.
Ridiculous now. It's almost as much as I was paying on the mortgage for my first home.
Yeah, I look at places in Salt Lake where I'm like, you want $1,500 or $1,600 a month for this shitty 800 square foot apartment?
Yeah, for a fucking apartment.
I'm like, I'm paying $1,300 a month for an over 2,000 square foot home.
Yeah, and are earning equity on that, not just pissing it away on rent.
Not doing that now.
Senator Sanders.
As the youngest guy on the stage, I feel like I probably ought to contribute to the generation.
As part of Joe's generation, I'm all for part of Joe's generation.
See, here's off the rail.
If I may say, is not generational.
Let's please.
The issue is not generational. The issue is who has the guts to
Oh, that was Marianne Williamson chiming in there in the background.
Take on Wall Street, to take on the fossil fuel industry, to take on the big money interests who have unbelievable influence over the economic and political life of this country.
These issues
Senator Harris, I'm so sorry. We will let all of you speak. Senator Harris. Senator Harris. Please.
See, you just can't have this many people on stage. Then you waste a lot of time in crosstalk. And
I vote we put them all in those big puffy sumo suits, and whoever wins gets to talk.
I think they probably should have had more stringent rules, like 10 people on stage at a time is too many, and it's too many to have over 2 different debates. Like,
what would have probably been better was a week. He could have done a week of town halls where each town hall has 2 or 3 representatives sitting in on that town hall.
That would have been a much
And the
better.
questions are directed from the audience. The audience directs a question directly to the candidate.
Yeah.
Ask them the question, and of course the moderator asks a few questions too. But they would have been able to talk more, get their point across in a way better way, and communicate with questions that are probably coming directly from their constituents.
That is a really good idea, I think. I think the only concern there is then you worry about viewer burnout, like
over
how
a week.
many times, how many hours are people going to actually sit down and watch, and then you're jockeying for position of, well, I want to be first, and who do you pair up for these town hall meetings and stuff. But really, at this point, it shouldn't matter, because they're not really debating each other at this point.
No,
they're
trying to get their
tiny little 60-second stump speeches every time,
which is what a town hall basically is.
Yeah.
We'll let you all speak. Senator Harris.
We can't afford to wait for evolution on these issues.
Okay, guys, you know what? America does not want to witness a food fight. They want to know how we're going to put food on their table.
Ooh, that was a good one.
I think she was probably sitting on that one for just such a moment.
Yeah.
On that point, part of the issue that is at play in America today, and we've all been traveling around the country, I certainly have, I'm meeting people who are working 2 and 3 jobs. This president walks around talking about and flouting his great economy, right? My great economy, my great economy. You ask him, well, how are you measuring this greatness of this economy of yours? And he talks about the stock market. Well, that's fine if you own stocks. So many families in America do not. You ask them, how are you measuring the greatness of this economy of yours? And they point to the jobless numbers and the unemployment numbers. Well, yeah, people in America are working. They're working 2 and 3 jobs. So when we talk about jobs, let's be really clear. In our America, no one should have to work more than 1 job to have a roof over their head and food on the table.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Agree 100%.
That's a very good answer.
We've all expressed an interest in talking about
2 for 2.
So let's talk about health care. And this is going to be a show of hands question. We asked a question about health care last night that spurred a lot of discussion, as you know. We're going to do it again now. Many people watching at home have health insurance of their employer. Who here would abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan? Yeah. All right. Christian.
Did you see? So Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders both raised their hands. I think they were the only 2 on stage that did it. And then Joe
looks over.
Joe Biden was like, well, maybe.
Here's the thing. They all have government insurance.
Well, yeah, they all. Well, it's private health insurance but
through the government,
by the government.
Yeah.
Gillibrand, Senator Gillibrand.
Yeah, so now it's my turn.
Go ahead.
So this is a very important issue. So the plan that Senator Sanders and I and others support, Medicare for All, is how you get to single payer. But it has a buy-in transition period, which is really important. In 2005, when I ran for Congress in a 2-to-1 Republican district, I actually ran on Medicare for All, and I won that 2-to-1 Republican district twice. And the way I formulated it was simple. Anyone who doesn't have access to insurance they like, they could buy in at a percentage of income they could afford. So that's what we put into the transition period for our Medicare for All plan. I believe we need to get to universal health care as a right and not a privilege to single payer. The quickest way you get there is you create competition with the insurers. God bless the insurers if they want to compete, they can certainly try. But they've never put people over their profits, and I doubt they ever will. So what will happen is people will choose Medicare, you will transition, we will get to Medicare for All, and then your step to single payer is so short. I would make it an earned benefit, just like Social Security, so that you buy in your whole life. It is always there for you, and it's permanent, and it's universal.
Senator, your time is up. I'm going to put that same
That was really good, too. I like
Gillibrand.
Gillibrand.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've taught, look, everybody who says Medicare for all, every person in politics who allows that phrase to escape their lips has a responsibility to explain how you're actually supposed to get from here to there. Now, here's how I would do it. It's very similar. I would call it Medicare for all who want it. You take something like Medicare, a flavor of that, you make it available on the exchanges, people can buy in, and then if people like us are right, that will be not only a more inclusive plan, but a more efficient plan than any of the corporate answers out there, then it will be a very natural glide path to the single-payer environment. But let's remember, even in countries that have outright socialized medicine, like England, even there's still a private sector. That's fine. It's just that for our primary care, we can't be relying on the tender mercies of the corporate system. This one's very personal for me. I started out this year dealing with the terminal illness of my father. I make decisions for a
What happened?
living.
Dan.
Could have prepared me for the kind of decisions our
sucking
family
up all the
faced.
internet.
But the thing we had going for us was that we never had to make those decisions based on whether it was going to bankrupt our family because of Medicare. And I want every family to have that same freedom to do what is medically right, not live in financial.
Your time is complete. Vice President Biden, I want to put the question to you. You were one of the architects of Obamacare. So where do we go from here?
Look, this is very personal to me. When my wife and daughter were killed in an automobile accident, my 2 boys were really very badly injured. I couldn't imagine what it'd be like had I not had adequate health care available immediately. And then when my son came home from Iraq after a year, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he was given months to live. I can't fathom what would have happened if, in fact, they said, by the way, the last 6 months of your life, you're on your own. We're cutting off. You've used up your time. The fact of the matter is that the quickest, fastest way to do it is build on Obamacare, to build on what we did. And secondly, to make sure that everyone does have an option. Everyone, whether they have private insurance, employer insurance, or no insurance, they, in fact, can buy in the exchange to a Medicare-like plan. And the way to do that, we can do it quickly. Look, urgency matters. There's people right now facing what I faced. and what we faced without any of the help I had. We must move now. I'm against any Democrat who opposes, that takes down Obamacare, and any Republican who wants to get rid of it.
Let me turn to Senator Sanders. Senator Sanders, you basically want to scrap the private health insurance system as we know it and replace it with a government-run plan. None of the states that have tried something like that, California, Vermont, New York, has struggled with it, have been successful. If politicians can't make it work in those states, how would you implement it on a national level? How does this work?
Other countries have done it.
I find it hard to believe that every other major country on earth, including my neighbor 50 miles north of me, Canada, somehow has figured out a way to provide health care to every man, woman, and child. And in most cases, they're spending 50% per capita what we are spending. Let's be clear. Let us be very clear. The function of health care today, from the insurance and drug company perspective, is not to provide quality care to all in a cost-effective way. The function of the healthcare system today is to make billions in profits for the insurance companies. And last year, if you could believe it, while we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, and I will lower prescription drug prices in half in this country, top 10 companies made $69 billion in profit. They will spend hundreds of millions of dollars lying to the American people, telling us why we cannot have a Medicare for all single-payer program.
That's absolutely true. Insurance companies aren't seeking to provide the best care for their patients. Yeah. They're seeking to provide an adequate level of care so that people don't necessarily die right away. They get some care, but they're looking to maximize profits. They're not looking to maximize benefits for health benefits for people. They're looking to maximize their bottom line and profits. Well, that's the whole fucking reason they're in business.
And that's why they have teams of lawyers who fight every penny of a claim because they're trying to not pay out anything ever.
Yep.
Well, it's also like when everyone's saying if we raise minimum wage to $15, Burger King burgers are going to cost so much more money because they got to pay more money. It's like, yeah, no. What's not going to happen is their CEO isn't going to get a $20 million bonus this year.
Well, why don't we just try it and see? If the worst case scenario is everything is the same, then great. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
Then we're where we started. So let's just try it and see. If that's your big argument against it.
Yeah.
Have to follow up. How do you implement it on a national level? How do you implement it on a national level, given the fact it's not succeeded and other states have tried?
I will tell you how we'll do it. We'll do it the way real change has always taken place, whether it was the labor movement, the civil rights movement, or the women's movement. We will have Medicare for all, when tens of millions of people are prepared to stand up and tell the insurance companies and the drug companies that their day is gone, that health care is a human right, not something to make huge profits off of.
I can't believe he's had this cold for 4.5 years.
Excuse me. I'm addressing the question, Ms. Williamson. We've been talking a lot about access to health insurance, but for many Americans, their most pressing concern is the high cost of health care. How would you lower the cost of prescription drugs?
Well, first of all, the government should never have made the deal with the big pharma that they couldn't negotiate. That was just part of the regular corruption by which multinational corporations have their way with us. You know, I want to say that while I agree with that.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, I can't place it. It's like hoity-toity. I don't know.
That's I am rather rich accent.
The prissy.
You should pay attention to what I am saying.
So it's she's from Pretencia.
It's the Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek accent.
Yeah. I'm with Senator Bennet and others, but I agree with almost everything here. I'll tell you one thing. It's really nice if we've got all these plans, but if you think we're going to beat Donald Trump by just having all these plans, you got another thing coming. Because he didn't win by saying he had a plan. He
did say he had a plan.
Make America great again. We've got to get deeper than just these superficial fixes, as important as they are. Even if we're just talking about the superficial fixes, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a health care system in the United States. We have a sickness care system in the United States. We just wait till somebody gets sick, and then we talk about who's going to pay for the treatment and how they're going to be treated. What we need to talk about is why so many Americans have unnecessary chronic illnesses, so many more compared to other countries. And that gets back into not just the big pharma, not just health insurance companies. It has to do with chemical policies.
Oh,
it has to do with environmental policies. It has to do with food policies. It has to do with drug policies.
Thank you,
Senator. It has to do with environmental
Senator Bennet, a question for you.
She was going woo.
I think some of those are valid concerns. Of course, the environmental concerns and even to some extent the chemical concerns and stuff like that. But it's why we need regulations and better regulations, better oversight of these companies, not chemicals are bad kind of bullshit, which is the dog whistle I hear from her way too fucking often.
Yeah.
Build on it. You mentioned that a moment ago. Is that enough to get us to universal coverage?
I believe that will get us the quickest way there. And I thought the Vice President was very moving about this, and Mayor Pete as well. I had prostate cancer recently, as you may know, and that's why I was a little late getting in the race. The same week, my kid had her appendectomy out. And I feel very strongly that families ought to be able to have this choice. Yeah. I think that's what the American people want. I believe it will get us there quickly. There are millions of people in America that do not have health insurance today because they can't. They're too wealthy. They make too much money to be on Medicaid. They can't afford health insurance. When Senator Sanders says that Canada is single payer, there are 35 million people in Canada. There are 330 million people in the United States, easily the number of people on a public option. It could easily be 35 million. And for them, it would be Medicare for all, as Mayor Buttigieg says. But for others that want to keep it, they should be able to keep it. And I think that will be the fastest way to get where we need to go.
I got really confused by that answer.
I don't think the number of citizens should make a huge difference, because if Canada has 35 million people in it and they all pay into the system and 35 million people use it, okay, that works.
Getting coverage, yeah. Why?
And if in the U.S. you got 300 million people and there's 300 million people paying into it,
like math scales.
Yes,
that's kind of how math works.
Even I understand those percentages.
Also, I will say, Bernie is a very honest person. He has said over and over again, unlike others that have supported this legislation, over and over again, that this will make illegal all insurance except cosmetic, except insurance for, I guess that's for plastic surgery. Everything else is banned under the Medicare for All proposal that he has
let you go a little longer there, but obviously...
I never heard him say ban.
Just very briefly.
You know, Mike, Medicare is the most popular health insurance program in the country. People don't like their private insurance companies. They like their doctors and hospitals. Under our plan, people go to any doctor they want, any hospital they want. We will substantially lower the cost of healthcare in this country because we'll stop the greed of the insurance companies.
That was a fucking fantastic point I think Sanders just made, is that people don't like their health insurance. They like to see the doctors that they see. They like to go to the hospitals that they're familiar with. They don't fucking care what private insurance company they have as their provider to pay these doctors. They just want to see these same fucking doctors in hospitals.
And they don't want to go in and have their doctor be like, oh, wait, we don't cover that program for this.
Yeah, which is what they run into
a lot
with private insurance companies.
And sometimes it's not till after you see the doctor when you find out, oh, they don't cover that. Now I got to pay 100% of it.
Yeah, sorry. We tried to check this ahead of time, but it looks like your insurance company may have changed, or their policies may have changed, or their coverages may have changed.
Like you experienced.
Yeah, exactly.
On this issue, we have to think about how this affects real people. And the reality of how this affects real people is captured in a story that many of us heard, and I will paraphrase. There is any night in America, a parent who's seeing that their child has a temperature that is out of control, calls 911, what should I do? And they say, take the child to the emergency room.
Can't afford it.
They get in their car and they drive, and they're sitting in the parking lot outside of the emergency room looking at those sliding glass doors while they have the hand on the forehead of their child, knowing
that if they walk through those sliding glass doors, even though they have insurance, they will be out a $5,000 deductible when they walk through those doors. That's what insurance companies are doing.
Yes.
Today.
She's killing it.
This discussion, I want us to put it in Candidates, please.
I'm one of those parents. I was just in the emergency room, and I'm telling
Congressman, thank you.
We fight health insurance companies.
She just told you to shut up.
Every single week. We stand in line and pay expensive prescription drugs. We have to have a health care guarantee. If you're sick, you're seen, and in America, you never go broke because of it.
Okay. A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
That's where Trump's tweet came from.
Mayor Buttigieg, why?
Because our country is healthier when everybody is healthier. And remember, we're talking about something people are given a chance to buy into. In the same way that there are undocumented immigrants in my community who pay sales taxes, they pay property taxes directly or indirectly. This is not about a handout. This is an insurance program. And we do ourselves no favors by having 11 million undocumented people in our country be unable to access health care. But of course, the real problem is we shouldn't have 11 million undocumented people with no pathway to citizenship. It makes no sense. And the American people agree on what to do. This is a crazy thing. If leadership consists of forming a consensus around a divisive issue, this White House has divided us around a consensus issue. The American people want a pathway to citizenship. They want protections for dreamers. We need to clean up the lawful immigration system, like how my father immigrated to this country. And as part of a compromise, we can do whatever common sense measures are needed at the border. But Washington can't deliver on something the American people want. What does that tell you about the system we're living in? It tells you it needs profound structural reform.
That was a great answer. I really appreciated that answer because it wasn't just, yeah, we should cover all of the illegals so anybody who wants to randomly enter our country can get free health care. That's not how this is going to work. And it's not just that we have to address the issue of health care, but we also have to address the issue that Donald Trump has made a national crisis through the fucking things that he has done with his administration to make immigration that much worse for people.
President Biden, I believe you said that your health care...
And also that fucking tweet that he made is an unconscionable thing to even fucking say. He might as well have said, we're not going to give them soap and toothbrushes either.
Oh,
which is what they've basically been arguing in court anyway.
Well, wait, on that note, his tweet right below that from 4 hours ago, bipartisan humanitarian aid bill for the southern border just passed. A great job done by all. Now we must work to get rid of the loopholes and fix asylum. Thank you also, Mexico, for the work you've been doing on helping the illegal immigration. A very big difference. You are applauding a bill that is fixing a problem you created.
Yeah, that's just it. He stumbles into a fucking problem, makes it worse, somebody else fixes it, and he claims victory.
Yep.
Shitbag.
Plan would not cover undocumented immigrants. Could you explain your position?
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon.
I believe at the show of hands you did not raise your hand. Did you raise your hand?
No, I did.
Sorry.
I think everyone did.
You said
it looked like everybody on stage
under your plan, which is different than Obamacare.
Yes, but here's the thing.
Can you explain that change?
Yes, you cannot let, as the mayor said, you cannot let people who are sick, no matter where they come from, no matter what their status, go uncovered. You can't do that. It's just going to be taken care of, period. You have to. It's a humane thing to do. But here's the deal. The deal is that he's right about three things. Number one, they, in fact, contribute to the well-being of the country, but they also, for example, they've increased the lifespan of Social Security because they have a job, they're paying a Social Security tax.
That they'll never collect on.
Increase the lifespan. They would do the same thing in terms of reducing the overall cost of health care by them being able to be treated and not wait till they're in extremis. The other thing is, folks, look, we can deal with these insurance companies. We can deal with the insurance companies by, number one, putting insurance executives in jail for their misleading advertising, what they're doing on opioids, what they're doing paying doctors to prescribe. We could be doing this by making sure everyone who is on Medicare, that the government should be able to negotiate the price for whatever the drug costs are. We can do this by making sure that we're in a position that we in fact allow people. Time's up.
Hold off a minute. We need to take a short break here. We got a lot more we need to talk to all of you about, so stick with us.
On what he was just talking about there with being able to basically put them in jail, agree 100%. Because if you can take an executive from Ford or Chevy and say, we know that you knew your seatbelts were defective in your car, and you kept producing that vehicle with that defect in there,
and lying about it.
You lied about it. You are fucking liable for those people that died in those cars with those defective seatbelts.
Yep.
Yet we haven't been able to put a single person in jail that knowingly knows that they're producing a prescription drug that's highly addictive and easily abused and is overprescribed, because that makes them fucking money.
Way overprescribed.
Because that's what they want.
Yeah. Way overprescribed, way overordered.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got, small little towns with populations of 10,000 people ordering millions of pills. That should set off all kinds of red flags and alarms and warning bells.
Yeah, we don't have an issue with that.
Yeah.
They're completely clean and clear on those types of things.
They don't have to face any repercussions for that at all. All right, well, while they're taking their little break, we'll take a little break too.
Time to go pee-pee.
Hey everybody, I'm Mary.
And I'm Shelley.
We have the Latter-day Lesbian Podcast. It's the podcast about an ex-Mormon gay girl just trying to figure out her life.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do that every week on a podcast, don't we?
We do.
You're supposed to jump in.
Sorry.
Just jump in anytime.
Okay. I'm here.
We are available on your favorite podcast app. Just look for Latter-day Lesbian, where your favorite podcast can be heard.
And you're listening to the Godless Rebelution.
But if I become president, we're all going to be saying Merry Christmas again. That I can tell you.
Thank you to everybody who has rated the show on iTunes and Stitcher and are following us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And to all our Patreon patrons, you make the show possible.
And we're back.
Yeah, we are. Uh-oh.
Maybe. Oh, there it is. There you go.
Welcome back from Miami.
We said that already.
Is going to lead off the questioning in this round.
Thank you very much. Senator Harris, last month, more than 130,000 migrants were apprehended at the southern border. Many of them are being detained, including small children, in private detention centers in Florida and throughout our country.
Yeah.
Also, the candidates on this stage say the conditions at these facilities are abhorrent. On January 20th, 2021, if you are president, what specifically would you do with the thousands of people who try to reach the United States every day and want a better life through asylum?
Immediately on January 20th of 2021, I will, first of all, we cannot forget our DACA recipients, and so I'm going to start there. I will immediately, by executive action, reinstate DACA status and DACA protection to those young people. I will further extend protection for deferral of deportation for their parents and for veterans, who we have so many who are undocumented and have served our country and fought for our democracy.
Which should be automatic citizenship, in my opinion.
Absolutely should. Immediately put in place a meaningful process for reviewing the cases for asylum. I will release children from cages. I will get rid of the private detention centers. And I will ensure that this microphone that the President of the United States holds in her hand is used in a way that is about reflecting the values of our country and not about locking children up, separating them from their parents. And I have to just say that we have to think about this issue in terms of real people. A mother who pays a coyote to transport her child through their country of origin, through the entire country of Mexico, facing unknown peril to come here. Why would that mother do that? I will tell you. Because she has decided for that child to remain where they are is worse. But what does Donald Trump do? He says, go back to where you came from. That is not reflective of our America and our values, and it's got to end.
Governor,
she's doing a great job tonight. I'm really impressed with Harris so far.
Day one.
She's fired up.
Day one at the White House. How do you respond
with these children?
Let me get to you in just a second.
I'm sorry.
Governor, day one, thousands of men, women, and children cross the border asking for asylum for a better life. What do you do? Day one, hour one.
Well, certainly the images we've seen this week just compound the emotional impact that the world is judging us by. If you'd ever told me any time in my life that this country would sanction federal agents to take children from the arms of their parents, put them in cages, actually put them up for adoption, in Colorado we call that kidnapping, I would have told you...
It's true.
I would have told you it was unbelievable. And the first thing we have to do is recognize the humanitarian crisis on the border for what it is. We make sure that there are the sufficient facilities in place so that women and children are not separated from their families, the children are with their families. We have to make sure that ICE is completely reformed and they begin looking at their job in a humanitarian way where they're addressing the whole needs of the people that they are engaged with along the border. And we'd have to make sure ultimately that we provide not just shelter, but food, clothing, and access to medical care.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes, what Donald Trump has done to these children, and it's not just in Colorado, Governor, you're right, it is kidnapping, and it's extremely important for us to realize that. If you forcibly take a child from their parents' arms, you are kidnapping them. And if you take a lot of children and you put them in a detainment center, thus inflicting chronic trauma upon them, that's called child abuse. This is collective child abuse. And when this is crime, both of those things are a crime, and if your government does it, that doesn't make it less of a crime. These are state-sponsored crimes.
Congressman.
And what President Trump has done is not only attack these children, not only demonize these immigrants, he is attacking a basic principle of America's moral core. We open our hearts to the stranger. This is extremely important. And it's also important for all of us to remember, and I have great respect for everyone who is on this stage, but we're going to talk about what to do about health care. Well, where have you been, guys? Because if it's not just a matter of a plan, and I haven't heard anybody on this stage who has talked about American foreign policy in Latin America and how we might have, in the last few decades, contributed to something big more.
Senator Gillibrand.
Probably because that question hasn't been posed yet. I mean, I'm just going to say I don't like Marianne Williamson. I think she's a turd.
I don't think she's got a chance.
And that's my bias, and it's going to shine through in everything she says. She's a turd? Why? I just think she just rubs me the wrong way. The pretentious accent that she puts on. Well, what if, like I say, she's a woo-monger too.
What if you found out that she was deaf as a child?
And
it's a speech impediment.
Yeah.
Well, then that would obviously moderate and change my view.
She'd be a bigger turd.
But
sounding like an idiot.
She'd be less of a turd, but she'd still sound like one, or sound like a turd.
While we're at it, fuck Helen Keller.
Yeah,
that's what I said.
Okay.
What would you do as president with a reality?
Well, one of the worst things about President Trump that he's done to this country is he's torn apart the moral fabric of who we are. When he started separating children at the border from their parents, the fact that 7 children have died in his custody, the fact that dozens of children have been separated from their parents and they have no plan to reunite them. So I would do a few things. First, I would fight for comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship. Second, I would reform how we treat asylum seekers at the border. I would have a community-based treatment center where you're doing it within the communities, where asylum seekers are given lawyers, where there's real immigration judges, not employees of the Attorney General, but appointed for life, and have a community-based system. I would fund border security, but the worst thing President Trump has done is he's diverted the funds away from cross-border terrorism, cross-border human trafficking, drug trafficking, and gun trafficking, and he's given that money to the for-profit prisons. I would not be spending money in for-profit prisons to lock up children and asylum seekers.
We had a very spirited debate on this stage last night on the topic of decriminalization.
That was a good answer from Gillibrand also. And while she was saying that, I was also reflecting more on Marianne Williams and what she said. And what rubbed me wrong about what she just said in that previous segment was, hello, where were all of you people? Well, we weren't writing self-help books and being Oprah's fucking guru. We've been in politics for a large portion of our lives, working to improve the lives of other people. You can say that you've been doing the same by writing your self-help books and all of that other stuff. But we've been here. What the fuck are you even talking about, lady? What qualifications do you have to be here?
She probably told someone to rub testicles on their forehead to alleviate their cancer.
You need to put some jade eggs in your vagina.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's wrong wooey person.
She probably believes it.
If you'd be so kind, raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross a border without documentation. Can we keep the hands up so we could see them?
And let's remember, that's not just a theoretical exercise. That criminalization, that is the basis for family separation. You do away with that, it's no longer possible. Of course, it wouldn't be possible anyway in my presidency because it is dead wrong. We got to talk about one other thing, because the Republican Party likes to cloak itself in the language of religion. Now, our party doesn't talk about that as much, largely for a very good reason, which was we are committed to the separation of church and state, and we stand for people of any religion and people of no religion. But we should call out hypocrisy when we see it. And for a party that associates itself with Christianity, to say that it is okay to suggest that God would smile on the division of families at the hands of federal agents, that God would condone putting children in cages, has lost all claim to ever use religious language again.
Vice President.
Ooh.
I ordinarily don't like when he drifts into religious stuff.
But I like the way he began it, though, too, saying, hey, we're here to represent all faith and non-faith.
Yeah. Why are you saying boo?
I don't want a religious left.
No, I don't either. But I think it's good to point out the hypocrisy, which I think is.
Well, I think what he was basically saying goes, they're not fucking Christians on the other side, even though they claim to be.
Yeah, but that's fallacious, and it's bringing
no true Scotsman.
And it's bringing God into where the question wasn't asked.
Yeah,
boo, Pete.
Well, we all know he's been going after the Christian vote.
Oh,
boo,
for sure, yeah.
Boo, Pete.
Yeah, I appreciate him calling out the hypocrisy and saying that, there's a very good reason that Democrats, by and large, don't bring religion into it, because we do believe in a separation of religion and government.
Mm-hmm. That's all good.
Yeah.
It's just the scorn with which he was talking about that no true Scotsman.
Yeah, if that God would smile,
like as if God would want you.
Christian thing.
Well, are you talking about the same God that says dash the babies upon the rocks? Because then he probably wouldn't care if you separated from mom first.
Yeah.
Well, only thing you gotta dash them upon the rocks.
Oh yeah, now put them in a cage. Right,
put them in a cage.
They're just doing the separation that they're doing is they're doing it in the wrong way.
It's more a problem of execution, really.
Yes.
Than
literally execution.
Yes. Yeah,
God wants them dead, not caged.
Logistically problematic. Boo, Pete, boo.
Mr. Vice President, I don't know if you raised your hand or were just asking to speak. Look, would you decriminalize crossing the border without documents?
The first thing I would do is unite families. I'd surge immediately billions of dollars worth of help to the region immediately. Look, I talk about foreign policy. I'm the guy that got a bipartisan agreement at the very end of the campaign, at the very end of our term, to spend $740 million to deal with the problem. And that was to go to the root cause of why people are leaving in the first place. It was working. We saw, as you know, a net decrease in the number of children who are coming. The crisis was abated. And along came this president. He said he immediately discontinued that. We all talk about these things. I did it. 740 million. Now look, Second thing we have to do. The law now requires the reuniting of those families. We would reunite those families, period. And if not, we put those children in a circumstance where they were safe until we could find their parents. And lastly,
I thought he was going to say
the
a circus.
idea that he's in court with his Justice Department saying children in cages do not need a bed, do not need a blanket, do not need a toothbrush. That is outrageous.
Vice President, the Obama-Biden administration deported more than 3 million Americans. My question to you is, if an individual is living in the United States of America without documents and that is his only offense, should that person be deported?
No.
Depending if they committed a major crime, they should be deported. And the president was left in his. President Obama, I think, did a heck of a job. To compare him to what this guy's doing is absolutely, I find, close to immoral. But the fact is that, look, we should not be locking people up. We should be making sure we change the circumstance, as we did, why they would leave in the first place. And those who come seeking asylum, we should immediately have the capacity to absorb them, keep them safe until they can be heard.
A 15-second, if you could, if you wish to answer. Should someone who is here without documents, and that is his only offense, should that person be deported?
That person should not be the focus of deportation. We should fundamentally change the way we deal with them.
Senator.
Okay, he answered it.
Yeah,
that's suggest that I agree with a lot of what Kamala just said. And that is, on day one, we take out our executive order pen and we rescind every damn thing on this issue that Trump has done. Number two.
Every damn thing.
Picking up on the point that Joe made. We got to look at the root causes. And you have a situation where Honduras, among other things, is a failing state. Massive corruption. You got gangs who are telling families that if a 10-year-old does not join that gang, that family is going to be killed. What we have got to do on day one is invite the presidents and the leadership of Central America and Mexico together. This is a hemispheric problem that we have got to address.
Congressman Swalwell, what do you do?
Day one?
No. If someone is here without documents and that is their only offense, is that person to be deported?
No. That person can be a part of this great American experience. That person can contribute. My congressional district is one of the most diverse in America, and we see the benefits when people contribute and they become a part of the community and they're not in the shadow economy. Day one for me, families are reunited. This president, though, for immigrants, there's nothing he will not do to separate a family, cage a child, or erase their existence by weaponizing the census. And there is nothing that we cannot do in the courts and that I will not do as president to reverse that and to make sure that families always belong together.
Senator Harris.
Well, thank you. I will say, no, absolutely not. They should not be deported. And I actually, this was one of the very few issues with which I disagreed with the administration, with whom I otherwise had a great relationship and a great deal of respect. But on the secure communities issue, I was Attorney General of California. I led the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice in a state of 40 million people. And on this issue, I disagreed with my president because the policy was to allow deportation of people who, by ICE's own definition, were non-criminals. So as Attorney General and the Chief Law Officer of the state of California, I issued a directive to the sheriffs of my state that they did not have to comply with detainers and instead should make decisions based on the best interest of public safety of their community. Because what I saw, and I was tracking it every day, I was tracking it and saw that parents, people who had not committed a crime, even by ICE's own definition, were being deported. But I have to add a point here. The problem with this kind of policy, and I know it as a prosecutor, I want a rape victim to be able to run in the middle of the street and wave down a police officer and report the crime against her. I want anybody who has been the victim of any real crime to be able to do that and not be afraid that if they do that, they will be deported because the abuser will tell them it is they who is the criminal. It is wrong.
I figured that's where she was headed
We're
with
going to
that.
turn to the issue of trade now, if we can.
It's like a
Last
long
night we
way
asked
to
the
get there,
candidates
but-
on the stage to name the greatest geopolitical threat
Just wanted
facing
to
the
hit the
U.S.
emotional
Four of them
points.
mentioned China. U.S. businesses say China steals our intellectual property, and party leaders on both sides accuse China of manipulating their currency to keep the cost of goods artificially low. I'll ask this to Senator Bennet to start off with. How would you stand up to China?
I think that, first of all, the biggest threat to our national security right now is Russia, not China. And second, on China, we've got competition because of what they've done with our election. In China, I think the president's been right to push back on China, but has done it in completely the wrong way. We should mobilize the entire rest of the world, who all have a shared interest in pushing back on China's mercantilist trade policies, and I think we can do that. I'd like to answer the other question before this as well.
Do you have the time?
When I see these kids at the border, I see my mom because I know she sees herself, because she was separated from her parents for years during the Holocaust in Poland. And for Donald Trump to be doing what he's doing to children and their families at the borders, I say this as somebody who wrote the immigration bill in 2013 that created a pathway to citizenship for 11 million people in this country, that had the most progressive DREAM Act that's ever been conceived, much less passed. It got 68 votes in the Senate, that had $46 billion of border security in it, that was sophisticated 21st century border security, not a medieval wall. And the president has turned the border of the United States into a symbol of nativist hostility that the whole world is looking at, when what we should be represented by is the Statue of Liberty, which has brought my parents to this country to begin with. We need to make a change.
That was good.
On the issue of China, you've expressed a lot of concerns about technology and taking jobs. Are you worried about China? And if so, how would you stand up against it?
Well, I just want to agree that I think Russia is our greatest geopolitical threat, because they've been hacking our democracy successfully, and they've been laughing their asses off about it for the last couple of years. So we should focus on that before we start worrying about other threats. Now, China,
That's what happens when you don't wear a tie, man. Everything's loosey-goosey.
It's a massive problem. But the tariffs and the trade war are just punishing businesses and producers and workers on both sides. I met with a farmer in Iowa who said he spent 6 years building up a buying relationship in China that's now disappeared and gone forever. And the beneficiaries have not been American workers or people in China. It's been Southeast Asia and other producers that have then stepped into the void. So we need to crack down on Chinese malfeasance in the trade relationship, but the tariffs and the trade war are the wrong way to go.
All right, Mayor Buttigieg, how would you stand up against China?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we've got to recognize that the China challenge really is a serious one. This is not something to dismiss or wave away. And if you look at what China is doing, they're using technology for the perfection of dictatorship. Folks who aren't in the shadow of a factory are somewhere near a soy field.
There was a jump there in time.
And manufacturers, and especially soy farmers, are hurting. Tariffs are taxes. And Americans are going to pay on average $800 more a year because of these tariffs. Meanwhile, China is investing so that they could soon be able to run circles around us in artificial intelligence. And this president is fixated on the China relationship as if all that mattered was the export balance on dishwashers. We've got a much bigger issue on our hands. But at a moment when their authoritarian model is being held up as an alternative to ours because ours looks so chaotic compared to theirs right now because of our internal divisions. The biggest thing we've got to do is invest in our own domestic competitiveness. If we disinvest in our own infrastructure, education, we are never going to be able to compete. And if we really want to be an alternative, a democratic alternative, we actually have to demonstrate that we care about democratic values at home and around the world.
We've got a good debate so far. We're going to take a quick break here, candidates. When we come back, the questioning continues with our colleagues, Chuck Todd, Rachel Maddow will be here. Much more.
Rachel Maddow's going to be there. I like Rachel Maddow.
I know.
She's really cool. I like her a lot.
Well, there have been some good answers in there.
Yeah, there were some very good answers. Andrew Yang, I have a very hard time taking seriously.
Is he the youngest one running?
No,
I think Buttigieg is
Buttigieg younger than him.
Yeah, he said Buttigieg said this, that as the youngest person here on stage. I can't remember if he said on stage or in the whole candidate pool or whatever, but yeah. He's younger than Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, I think he's got some good ideas about some things. I think UBI is a great idea. Paying for it would be a challenge.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of wealthy people and to corporations that aren't paying what I believe would be their fair share, and that could certainly go a long way to pay for some of that. But
I mean, at some point in history, it's going to have to happen if we keep advancing technologically. It's going to be like, well, motherfuckers, we don't need any more workers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody's going to drive trucks anymore because they're all going to be driving them fucking selves. And
yeah. Thanks for playing our game.
Yep.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And we're going to take a break while they take a break again.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Yvette Dontremont, a.k.a. The Cybabe, and you're listening to Godless Rebelution. You can find me at cybabe.com, at my Twitter account at The Cybabe, and if you've hunt really hard, you can find me at Pornhub. I dare you.
We've broken virtually every record because, look, I only need this space. They need much more room. For basketball, for hockey, for all the sports, they need a lot of room. We don't need it. We have people in that space. So we break all these records. But really, we do it without, the musical instruments. This is the only musical, the mouth. And hopefully the brain attached to the mouth, right? The brain, more important than the mouth, is the brain. The brain is much more important.
Rejoining the Godless Rebelution podcast now.
Did you miss us? Because we're back now.
Oh, yeah.
They're coming back also. I'm going to play the video s'mores.
What?
Chuck Todd and Rachel Maddow are coming up now.
Welcome back to the Democratic presidential debate from the Arch Center in Miami.
As we continue the questioning, we want to bring in more members of our team.
So let's turn it over to Chuck Todd and Rachel Maddow.
Well, Rachel, I had a dream that we've done this before.
No. This is definitely
didn't happen.
the first time.
Definitely first time. Thank you, Lester, Savannah, and Jose.
Well, hopefully they won't have microphone problems tonight.
Yeah. Candidates qualified for this.
Hopefully they turn them off.
Yeah. From 10 of them from last night. We're hearing from 10 more tonight. Breakdown for each night was selected at random. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer direct questions, 30 seconds for follow-ups, if necessary.
Because of this large field of candidates, not every person will be able to comment on everything, but the less audience reaction there is, the more time they will all get. For the next hour,
and if they could stop trying to talk over each other.
Yeah.
But we are going to begin this hour with Mayor Buttigieg.
We don't want a food fight.
In the last 5 years, civil rights activists in our country have led a national debate over race and the criminal justice system. Your community of South Bend, Indiana, has recently been in uproar over an officer-involved shooting. The police force in South Bend is now 6% black in a city that is 26% black. Why has that not improved over your 2 terms as mayor?
Because I couldn't get it done. My community is in anguish right now.
He's being
honest.
honest.
Of an officer-involved shooting. A black man, Eric Logan, killed by a white officer. And I'm not allowed to take sides until the investigation comes back. The officer said he was attacked with a knife, but he didn't have his body camera on. It's a
That
mess.
seems convenient.
And we're hurting. And I could walk you through all of the things that we have done as a community. All of the steps that we took, from bias training to de-escalation, but it didn't save the life of Eric Logan. And when I look into his mother's eyes, I have to face the fact that nothing that I say will bring him back. This is an issue that is facing our community and so many communities around the country. And until we move policing out from the shadow of systemic racism, whatever this particular incident teaches us, we will be left with the bigger problem of the fact that there's a wall of mistrust put up one racist act at a time, not just from what's happened in the past, but from what's happening around the country in the present. It threatens the well-being of every community. And I am determined to bring about a day when a white person driving a vehicle and a black person driving a vehicle, when they see a police officer approaching, feels the exact same thing. A feeling not of fear, but of safety. I am determined to bring that day about.
Thank you.
God damn, that was a good answer.
Yeah?
That got me a little choked up.
Yeah, well, he was expecting that question, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he had to have been expecting it because it's been all over the news that he didn't handle it very well initially. And,
well, I mean, his initial response saying, I didn't get it done.
Well, yeah, in this, his initial response was great, I think. And being honest and just saying, I I didn't get it done. There are things we've tried, but
it didn't work.
Hasn't been very effective, and of course, didn't change things in a way that would have not ended up in the death of this person. And I have to live with that, and I have to address that and know that nothing I say or do will bring him back. And yeah, that's rough. It's a tough position that a lot of politicians will find themselves in, I'm sure, over the course of their political career. And to face that with such bald, raw, emotional truthfulness, I think was awesome. That was great.
Mr. Mayor.
If I could ask one question, just because I think...
Governor, I'll give you 30 seconds.
I think that the question they're asking in South Bend, I think in cities across the country, is why has it taken so long? We had a shooting when I first became mayor 10 years before Ferguson, and the community came together and we created an Office of the Independent Monitor, a Civilian Oversight Commission. We diversified the police force in 2 years. We actually did de-escalation training. I think the real question that America should be asking is why 5 years after Ferguson, every city doesn't have this level of police accountability.
Governor Hickenlooper, thank you.
I've got to respond to that.
The Republicans.
We've taken so many steps toward police accountability that, the FOP just denounced me for too much accountability. We're obviously not there yet. And I accept responsibility for that because I'm in charge.
Policy, you should fire the chief.
Oh, wow.
So under Indiana law, this will be investigated.
Did you hear what he said?
And there will be accountability for the officer involved.
He basically said if it's a law to have the camera on and that he didn't have the camera on, fire the chief.
You'd be burning through chiefs pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Unless it was a fire chief that did the shooting.
Well, I don't think it was the chief that did the shooting. I think it was
because if it's a law to have it on and they're not doing it, somebody needs to be held accountable.
Yeah,
I would say.
And if you've got that many corrupt chiefs, then you'd be just as well to burn through them anyway.
Well, but it wasn't the chief who shot this person; it was the officer out in the field.
Yeah,
and it's
if that officer's
hard
not
to
following
control. That the person who didn't have their camera on should absolutely be fired, not just because they didn't have their camera on, but they didn't have their camera on while they fucking shot somebody.
Yeah. Like turn it off intentionally, maybe.
That sure seems
plausible.
Like a very plausible reason why the camera was off. Yeah.
The mayor, you should fire the chief if that's the policy and someone died.
All of these issues are extremely important, but there are specifics.
Ooh, did you see that side eye he was giving him?
And the underlying cause has to do with deep realms of racial injustice, both in our criminal justice system and in our economic system. And the Democratic Party should be on the side of reparations for slavery for this very reason.
Wait.
I do not believe that the average American is a...
I missed the first part of what she was saying because
I just didn't know how it went from police shootings to now reparations. That's a big jump.
Yeah, it is a big leap. And I was still thinking about this look that
Buttigieg
is given to Swalwell.
And there will be accountability for the officer involved.
But you're the mayor. You should fire the chief if that's the policy and someone died.
All of these issues are extremely important, but there are specifics, there are symptoms, and the underlying cause has to do with...
I still am missing what she's saying because I was just watching his reaction the whole time.
Okay.
So many steps toward police accountability that, the FOP just denounced me for too much accountability. We're obviously not there yet. And I accept responsibility for that because I'm in charge.
Policy, you should fire the chief.
So under Indiana law, this will be investigated. And there will be accountability for the officer involved.
But you're the mayor. You should fire the chief if that's the policy and someone died.
All of these issues are extremely important, but there are specifics, there are symptoms, and the underlying cause has to do with deep realms of racial injustice, both in our criminal justice system and in our economic system. And the Democratic Party should be on the side of reparations for slavery for this very reason. I do not believe that the average American is a racist, but the average American is woefully undereducated about the history of race in the United States.
Ms. Williamson, thank you very much.
She's not wrong, but she says it in such a way that I'm just like, shut up.
But in the context of the question in the line of talk that's going on right now, how does reparations keep black people from being shot by white cops?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It was a non sequitur. She wanted to get that in there.
Yeah,
which is good. I'm all in favor of reparations as well. I think it's something that we should absolutely do. But it was strange. It was a really weird shift
Yeah, I saw a comment where someone goes, well, why should they get reparations? Not like they were a slave. And I feel like chiming in on it, but I didn't. I'm like, yeah, but if your wife got into a car accident and she died, guess who would get the money? You. You didn't get in the car accident. You weren't the one harmed, but you still get the money.
Harmed.
And, well, he's harmed in that, she's not around anymore.
He's got that loss, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just kind of the same way. It's like, even though it wasn't them that were put in that situation, their family was, and the family never got what should have been given to them at the time.
Yeah. I am all in favor of reparations. Maybe we should have a show one day to talk about that, because I am fully in support of that.
Vice President Biden, we're going to get to you. Hang on, we're going to get to
stage. I would like to speak on the issue of race.
Senator Harris,
what I will say is that
if I could preface this, we will give you 30 seconds since we're going to come back to you on this again in just a moment. Go for 30 seconds.
Okay.
She said go for 30 seconds.
On the issue of race, I couldn't agree more that this is an issue that is still not being talked about truthfully and honestly. There is not a black man I know, be he a relative, a friend, or a coworker, who has not been the subject of some form of profiling or discrimination. Growing up, my sister and I had to deal with the neighbor who told us her parents couldn't play with us because we were black. And I will say also that in this campaign, we've also heard, and I'm going to now direct this at Vice President Biden, I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground.
I sense a butt coming.
But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing.
This is going to be good. I'm sure he had to have seen this coming, because he's the front runner in the field.
Yep.
And
all tweets
this
come
has
to
been
life.
all in the news, and I think he was wrong for a lot of the way that he handled this and what he said, and how he's just kind of like, fuck you if you've got a problem with it in the aftermath. And so this is a very poignant moment in this debate. This is good. I was looking forward to this question.
And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously. We have to act swiftly. As Attorney General of California, I was very proud to put in place a requirement that all my special agents would wear body cameras and keep those cameras on.
Senator Harris, thank you. Vice President Biden, you have been invoked. We are going to give you a chance to respond. Vice President Biden.
That was awesome. Yeah. Harris is fucking nailing it tonight, man. She's doing really well.
Mischaracterization of my position across the board. I did not praise racist. That is not true. Number one. Number two, if we want to have this campaign litigated on who supports civil rights and whether I did or not, I'm happy to do that. I was a public defender. I didn't become a prosecutor. I came out and I left a good law firm to become a public defender when in fact
oh, boom.
When in fact, my city was in flames because of the assassination of Dr. King. Number one. Number two, as the Vice President of the United States, I work with a man who, in fact, we worked very hard to see to it we dealt with these issues in a major, major way. The fact is that in terms of busing, you would have been able to go to school the same exact way because it was a local decision made by your city council. That's fine. That's one of the things I argued for, that we should be breaking down these lines. But so the bottom line here is, look, everything I've done in my career, I ran because of civil rights. I continue to think we have to make fundamental changes in civil rights. And those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
But Vice President Biden, do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then.
No.
Do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well,
I
there
did
was
not
a
oppose.
failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision.
So that's where the federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA, because there are...
And read him the Riot Act. God damn it. Yeah, he's absolutely fucking wrong on this point.
That's largely because he's a moderate. He's such a moderate that it's not, this isn't the big, this is why Harris is not addressing Sanders right now. Because he's far enough left to understand these issues.
Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And what we're talking about here is the supremacy of federal law. Federal law rules. Yeah. That's
instead
that's
where
the whole
he was
point she's
saying, well,
making.
I was leaving it up to the state.
Yeah. States' rights is a fucking dog whistle for racists.
Yeah.
States' rights is what they say the Civil War was fought over.
Yep.
Yeah, the states' rights to own fucking people.
Slaves, yeah.
moments in history where states fail to preserve the civil rights of all
I have
people.
supported the ERA from the very beginning when I ran
Vice President Biden, 30 seconds, because I want to bring other people into this.
I supported the ERA from the very beginning. I'm the guy that extended the Voting Rights Act for 25 years. We got to the place where we got 98 out of 98 votes in the United States Senate doing it. I've also argued very strongly that we, in fact, deal with the notion of denying people access to the ballot box. I agree that everybody, once they, in fact, they should. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Vice President.
He just lost his train of thought, so he gave up.
That's the second time I've noticed him do that. That he's lost the narrative and is just like, what was that? Oh, my time's up.
Because I've noticed they've let plenty of people go way beyond 30 seconds.
And they didn't try to interrupt him or stop him. He volunteered that twice now.
Yeah. Unless they have a clock and sometimes they put up a clock.
Yeah.
Well, their podium turns red.
Yeah, their podium changes color.
But can they see that?
So that the audience knows, well, I'm sure there's a timer that they
can see. Yeah,
also.
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't interrupting him trying to get him to stop or anything. They were going to let him go until he was done. And that's the second time that he's just like,
stop.
Oh, I can't remember what I was going with this, so I'll just stop now. My time's up. There we go. But he's absolutely wrong on that point. And he can bring up this other stuff that he's done, which is all fine and good. But he still needs to acknowledge that he was fucking wrong about it.
That's all she wanted to hear was him say, I was wrong.
Yeah, I was wrong and I will do better. That's all he has to fucking say. And instead, he keeps trying to say, well, but I've done this and I've done this and I've done this. Okay, fine, great. Those are good things, but you still fucked up over here.
Yeah.
This is the thing we're talking about, not the other stuff. This is the thing we're talking about.
And it should be easy to say, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking Buttigieg just did that, right?
Yep.
Because I couldn't get it done. That's what happened.
Yep.
I couldn't get it done. I couldn't get this done. I couldn't make this change possible.
Senator Sanders, I'm going to go to you on this. You said on the day you launched your campaign that voters should focus on what people stand for, not a candidate's race or age or sexual orientation. Many Democrats are very excited by the diversity of this field on this stage and on last night's stage, and the perspective that diversity brings to this contest and to these issues. Are you telling Democratic voters that diversity shouldn't matter when they make this decision?
No, absolutely not. Unlike the Republican Party, we encourage diversity. We believe in diversity. That's what America is about. But in addition to diversity, in terms of having more women, more people from the LGBT community, we also have to do something else. And that is we have to ask ourselves a simple question. And that how come today the worker in the middle of our economy is making no more money than he or she made 45 years ago, and that in the last 30 years, the top 1% has seen a $21 trillion increase in their wealth. We need a party that is diverse, but we need a party that has the guts to stand up to the powerful special interests who have so much power over the economic and political life of this country.
Senator Gillibrand, I want to give you 30 seconds on this.
Well, first of all, where Bernie left off, we've heard a lot of good ideas on this stage tonight and a lot of plans. But the truth is, until you go to the root of the corruption, the money in politics, the fact that Washington is run by the special interests, you are never going to solve any of these problems. I have the most comprehensive approach that experts agree is the most transformative plan to actually take on political corruption, to get money out of politics through publicly funded elections, to have clean elections. If we do that and get money out of politics, we can guarantee health care is a right, not a privilege. We can deal with institutional racism. We can take on income inequality, and we can take on the corporate corruption that runs Washington.
And the first constitution to do that was introduced by me when I was a young senator.
Thank you, Vice President. We want to shift topics here. Senator Bennet, the next question is for you. On the issue of partisan gridlock, President Obama promised in 2012 that after his reelection, Republicans would want to work with Democrats. Fever would break. That did not happen.
Nope, it didn't.
Now, Vice President Biden is saying the same thing, that if he is elected in 2020, both parties will want to work together. Should voters believe that somehow if there's a Democratic president in 2021, that gridlock is going to magically disappear?
It will never go away.
Magically disappear as long as Mitch McConnell is there first.
Oh! Yeah, fuck you, Mitch McConnell, you piece of shit.
That's why it is so important for us to win not just the presidency, to have somebody that can run in all 50 states, but to win the Senate as well. And that's why we have to propose policies that can be supported, like Medicare Act, so that we can build a broad coalition of Americans to overcome broken Washington, D.C. I agree with what Senator Gillibrand was saying. I share a lot of her views. We need to end gerrymandering in Washington. We need to end political gerrymandering in Washington. The court today said they couldn't do anything about it. We need to overturn Citizens United. The court was the one that gave us Citizens United, and the attack on voting rights in Shelby versus Holder is something we need to deal with. All of those things has happened since Vice President Biden was in the Senate. And we face structural problems that we have to overcome with a broad coalition. It's the only way we can do it. We need to root out the corruption in Washington, expand people's right to get to the polls, and I think then we can succeed.
Vice President Biden, 30 seconds. That
was a good answer, too.
You've been doing good, too.
Yeah. You haven't seen what's been happening in the United States Senate over the last 12 years. It didn't happen. Why?
I have seen what happened. Just since we were vice president, we needed 3 votes to pass an $800 billion recovery act that kept us from going into depression. I got 3 votes changed. We needed to be able to keep the government from shutting down and going bankrupt. I got Mitch McConnell to raise taxes $600 billion by raising the top rate. And as recently as after President got elected, I was able to put together a coalition of the Cures Act that billions of dollars go into cancer research, bipartisan. But sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you just have to go out and beat them. I went into 20 states, over 60 candidates, and guess what? We beat them. We won back the Senate.
Thank you.
Chuck,
thank you,
the problem with what the Vice President...
30 seconds. Go ahead.
Sometimes you do have to beat him, but the deal that he talked about with Mitch McConnell was a complete victory for the Tea Party. It extended the Bush tax cut permanently. The Democratic Party had been running against that for 10 years. We lost that economic argument because that deal extended almost all those Bush tax cuts permanently and put in place the mindless cuts that we still are dealing with today that are called the sequester. That was a great deal for Mitch McConnell. It was a terrible deal for
That's why Mitch McConnell agreed to it. Yeah. And the fact that Biden can't see that again makes him fucking tone deaf.
Tax cut had to be passed is because they had to pay back their donors. You heard it. They actually said those words. So the corruption in Washington is real. And it is something that makes every one of the plans we've heard about over the last several months impossible. And I have the most comprehensive approach to do it with clean elections, publicly funded elections. So we restore the power of our democracy into the hands of the voters, not into the Koch brothers. We were talking about issues. Imagine, we're in Florida. Imagine the Parkland kids having as much power in our democracy as the Koch brothers or the NRA. Imagine their voices carrying farther and wider than anyone else because their voice is needed.
Gillibrand, I'm trying to get everybody in here.
It's the first thing I'm going to do because nothing else is possible, whether it's education or healthcare or ending institutional racism.
Thank you very much.
Sanders, I'd like to put a different question to you. Roe versus Wade.
Joe Biden's the only one that slows down at yellow light.
Now that there is a conservative majority on the Supreme Court, several Republican-controlled states have passed laws to severely restrict or even ban abortion. One of those laws could very well make it to the Supreme Court during your presidency, if you're elected president. What is your plan if Roe is struck down in the court while you're president?
Well, my plan is somebody who believes, for a start, that a woman's right to control her own body is a constitutional right, that government and politicians should not infringe on that right. We will do everything we can to defend our Roe versus Wade. Second of all, let me make a promise here. You ask about litmus test. My litmus test is I will never nominate any justice to the Supreme Court unless that justice is 100% clear he or she will defend Roe v. Wade. Third of all, I do not believe in packing the court. We got a terrible 5-4 majority conservative court right now. But I do believe that constitutionally we have the power to rotate judges to other courts. And that brings in new blood into the Supreme Court, and a majority, I hope, that will understand that a woman has the right to control her own body, and that corporations cannot run the United States of America.
Pause that for a second.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing that he just said there.
Did he say that he believes we have the constitutional right to be able to take a Supreme Court judge and circulate them to a federal court somewhere else and bring a federal court judge into the Supreme Court?
That's kind of what I got out of what he just said. This is a new line of thought for me. I haven't heard anybody voice this
like
before.
Castling in chess.
Yeah, because okay, so a federally appointed judge is appointed. Is there an end to their appointment?
Lifetime appointment.
Lifetime appointment.
I think they are.
Just like the Supreme Court. And a federal judge has to be voted in as they have to go through.
They have to be confirmed.
Just like a Supreme Court judge has to be confirmed. So if they have to go through the same processes and get confirmed to hold that position,
it sounds like he's saying
is it held on the same level?
We can just pluck Gorsuch out of the Supreme Court
put
and
someone else
in.
Both of those guys should be out of there.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of the conservatives that are total turds.
Oh yeah, Thomas too. He should be out too.
Yeah, he's just so fucking unqualified. It's disgusting.
Or is that where you take and you do the whole? Okay, you only serve on the Supreme Court for 2 years, so you have to be a federally elected judge. Then
have you just recently started saying the word "yours" differently?
No, I think I've always said it different.
Okay, I've never noticed it.
Now I'm going to be self-conscious of how I say it.
You say it like a Geordie.
A Geordie?
What's
like
a Geordie?
Michael Marshall,
who's
from Be Reasonable.
Oh yeah. I don't listen to that show very often. I listen when people recommend certain episodes.
Well, maybe you get elected to the federal court judge system, and you circulate through the Supreme Court for 2 years on the bench.
It's an interesting proposition. Yeah, I'm curious to hear Andrew's take on this on opening arguments.
Yeah.
But this would also have a negative effect because if you get to choose who gets to sit for those 2 years, you could choose 100% conservative judges to sit for those 2 years in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it seems a very fraught thing to bring into it.
Unless it's something specific related to the seating of Gorsuch, and because that was a denial of a constitutional right, that there's some way to
elections have consequences. That whole fucking Mitch McConnell
maybe
bullshit.
he will elaborate on that more in the future, because I'm kind of interested on his line of thinking on that.
I've never heard anybody mention that before.
I've never even thought about that.
Yeah, so I'm sure that Andrew and Thomas will address that on opening arguments, and I will be very interested to hear about it.
Hold on, I'm going to give you 10 additional seconds, because the question is, what if the court has already overturned Roe, and Roe is gone. All of the things you just described would be to try to preserve Roe. If Roe is gone, what could you do as president to preserve abortion rights?
Well, first of all, let me tell you this. It didn't come up yet, but let's face this. Medicare for all guarantees every woman in this country the right to have an abortion if she wants it.
Thank you, Senator.
And can I just address this for a second? And I want to talk directly to America's women and to the men who love them. Women's reproductive rights.
I'm sorry, I was in thought after his answer there because it didn't really address her question. If Roe v. Wade is gone, which guarantees that women do have that option and that right available to them, it doesn't matter if Medicare covers it or not.
Because it's gone.
Yeah, because it's just gone. So
unless you write it back into the bill and make it legal through the bill somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't really seem to me to address her question, but clearly I have been wrong about those things in the recent past, maybe. So I could be totally wrong on this one too.
Are under assault by President Trump and the Republican Party. 30 states are trying to overturn Roe v. Wade right now. And it is mind-boggling to me that we are debating this on this stage in 2019 among Democrats, whether women should have access to reproductive rights. I think we have to
the Democrats aren't arguing it, the Republicans.
And start playing offense. But let me tell you one thing about politics, because it goes to the corruption and the deal-making. When the door is closed and the negotiations are made, there are conversations about women's rights, and compromises have been made on our backs. That's how we got to Hyde. That's how the Hyde Amendment was created, a compromise by leaders of both parties. Then we have the ACA. During the ACA negotiation, I had to fight like heck with other women to make sure that contraception wasn't sold down the river or abortion services. And so what we need to know is, imagine this one question. When we beat President Trump, and Mitch McConnell walks into the Oval Office, God forbid, to do negotiations, who do you want, when that door closes, to be sitting behind that desk to fight for women's rights? I have been the fiercest advocate for women's reproductive freedom for over a decade. And I promise you, as president, when that door closes, I will guarantee women's reproductive freedom no matter what.
Thank you. We're moving to climate. We're moving to climate, guys. Senator Harris, I'm addressing you first on this. You live in a state that has been hit by drought, wildfires, flooding. Climate change is a major concern for voters in your state. It's pretty obvious. Obviously, this state as well. Last night, voters heard many of the candidates weigh in on their proposals. Explain specifically what yours is.
Well, first of all, I don't even call it climate change. It's a climate crisis. It represents an existential threat to us as a species. And the fact that we have a president of the United States who has embraced science fiction over science fact will be to our collective peril.
Nice.
I visited, while the embers were smoldering,
she's doing good.
Wildfires in California. I spoke with firefighters who were in the midst of fighting a fire while their own homes were burning. And on this issue, it is a critical issue that is about what we must do to confront what is immediate and before us right now. That is why I support a Green New Deal. It is why I believe on day one, and as president, will re-enter us in the Paris Agreement, because we have to take these issues seriously. And frankly, we have a president of the United States. We talked about, you asked before, what is the greatest national security threat to the United States? It's Donald Trump. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I agree, climate change represents an existential threat. He denies the science. You want to talk about North Korea, real threat in terms of nuclear arsenal. But what does he do? He embraces Kim Jong-un, a dictator for the sake of a photo op. Putin. You want to talk about Russia? He takes the word of the Russian president over the word of the American intelligence community when it comes to a threat to our democracy and our elections.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
These are the issues that are before us, Chuck.
I hear you. Thank you, Senator Harris.
Andrew Yang has been pretty quiet throughout most of this.
If you're elected
most of that
president
left
in
side's
your
been pretty
first
quiet.
term, how is this going to help farmers impacted by climate change in the Midwest?
Well, the reality is we need to begin adapting right away, but we also can't skip a beat on preventing climate change from getting even worse. It's why we need aggressive and ambitious measures. It's why we need to do a carbon tax and dividend. But I would propose we do it in a way that is rebated out to the American people in a progressive fashion so that most Americans are made more than whole. This isn't theoretical for us in South Bend either. Parts of California on fire. Right here in Florida, they're talking about sea level rise. Well, in Indiana, I had to activate the Emergency Operations Center of our city twice in less than 2 years. The first time was a 1,000-year flood, and the next time was a 500-year flood. This is not just happening on the Arctic
been mayor
ice
for
caps. This is happening
1,500
in the
years?
middle of the country, and we've got to be dramatically more aggressive moving forward. Now, here's what very few
really
people
does
talk
look
about.
young.
First of all, rural America can be part of the solution instead of being told they're part of the problem. With the right kind of soil management and other kind of investments, rural America could be a huge part of how we get this done. And secondly, we got to look to the leadership of local communities. Those networks of mayors and cities from around the world who have come together, not even waiting for our national governments to catch up. We should have a Pittsburgh summit where we bring them together as well as rejoining the Paris.
Thank you, Mayor Buttigieg.
I want to bring Governor Hickenlooper into this for a moment. Governor, you have said that oil and gas companies should be a part of the solution on climate change. Lots of your colleagues on stage tonight have talked about moving away from fossil fuels entirely. Can oil and gas companies be real partners in this fight?
Well, I share the sense of urgency. I'm a scientist, so I recognize that we're within 10 or 12 years of actually.
Well, hey, did you guys know that he's a scientist?
Irreversible.
By looking at him.
I think I heard.
Yeah.
Guaranteeing everybody a government job is not going to get us there. So
I saw the pen holder in the shirt pocket.
Is not the solution. We have to look at
the pocket
what
protector.
really will make a difference. In Colorado, we're closing a couple of coal plants, replacing them with wind, solar, and batteries, and the monthly bills go down. We're building a network for electric vehicles. We are working with the oil and gas industry, and we created the first methane regulations in the country. Methane is 25 times worse than CO2. And then we've got to get to that last part. I mean, the industrial, heavy industry, we haven't seen the plans yet. If you look at the real problem, CO2, the worst polluters in CO2 is China, is the United States, and then it's concrete and it's exhalation. And beyond that, I think we've got to recognize that
it's a small country, but it really puts out a lot of hard problems.
We've got to bring them together and be part of this thing because
they're between a rock and a hard place.
We'll be doomed to failure. We have no way of doing this without bringing everyone together.
Thank you. Vice President Biden, on the issue of how you do this, Democrats are arguing robustly among themselves about what's the best way to tackle climate change. But if we're honest, many Republicans, including the president, are still not sure if they believe it is even a serious problem. So,
because he's a fucking
are there significant ways you can cut carbon emissions if you have to do it with no support from Congress?
The answer is yes. Number one, in our administration, we built the largest wind farm in the world, the largest solar energy facility in the world. We drove down the competitive price of both of those renewable sources. I would immediately insist that we, in fact, build 500,000 recharging stations throughout the United States of America, working with governors, mayors, and others, so that we can go to a full electric vehicle future by the year 2020, or by the year 2030. I would make sure that we invested $400 million in new science and technology to be the exporter, not only of the green economy, but economy that can create millions of jobs. But I would immediately join the Paris Climate Accord. I would up the ante in that accord, which it calls for, because we make up 15% of the problem. 85% of the world makes up the rest. And so we have to have someone who knows how to corral the rest of the world, bring them together, and get something done like we did in our administration.
Senator Sanders, I want to give you 30 seconds to follow up, and I'm going to hold you to 30.
Look, the old ways are no longer relevant.
What happened there?
The scientists tell us we have 12 years before there is irreparable damage to this planet. This is a global issue. What the President of the United States should do is not deny the reality of climate change, but tell the rest of the world that instead of spending $1.5 trillion on weapons of destruction, let us get together for the common enemy. And that is to transform the world's energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. The future of
that would be great if they could do it.
Yeah. Before we go, hang on.
Before we leave this topic.
Here's the solution. Pass the torch. Pass the torch to the generation that's
Take on the fossil
Pass the torch to the generation that's invented.
Before we leave this topic, here's something you all want to
We get it, Eric. Be quiet.
Hold one moment.
Just trust us on this.
Somebody has a younger body doesn't mean you don't have old ideas.
No, we didn't do it.
John Kennedy did not say, I have a plan to get a man to the moon, and so we're going to do it, and I think we can all work together, and maybe we can get a man on the moon. And John Kennedy said, by the end of this decade, we are going to put a man on the moon. Because
then he
John
got shot in the
Kennedy
head.
was back in the day when politics included the people, and included imagination, and included great dreams, and included great plans. And I have had a career not making the political plans, but I have had a career harnessing the inspiration and the motivation and the excitement of people, masses of people. When we know that when we say
I harness it, and then I put it in a small box in my room, and I sit on it, and I smell it sometimes.
We're going to do this within the next 12 years because I'm not interested in just winning the next election. We are interested in our grandchildren.
All right, we're going to sneak in a break in a minute, but before
it's only like the third time she's spoken.
I'm going to go down the line here, and I'm asking you, please, for one or two words only. All right, please.
Really?
President Obama in his first year wanted to address both healthcare and climate. And he could only get one signature issue accomplished. It was obviously healthcare. He didn't get to do climate change. You may only get one shot, and your first issue that you're going to push, you get one shot that it may be the only thing you get passed. What is that first issue for your presidency? Eric Swalwell, you're first.
For Parkland, for Orlando, for every community affected by gun violence, ending gun violence.
Senator Bennet.
It's an unrealistic thing.
Climate change and the lack of economic mobility Bernie talks about.
Senator Gillibrand.
So vote
Passing
Bernie?
a family bill of rights that includes a national paid leave plan, universal pre-K, affordable daycare, and making sure that women and families can thrive in the workplace no matter who they are.
Two words.
I like
that was pretty good. Senator Harris.
And so passing a middle class and working families tax cut,
That's one.
DACA, guns.
I'm giving you credit for the first thing you said, the tax cut. I got you. Senator Sanders, first thing.
The premise that there's only one or two issues out there. This
I'm not saying there isn't one or two.
Enormous crises.
Senator Sanders.
A political revolution. People have got to stand up and take on the special interest. We can transform this country.
Fine. Vice President Biden, your first issue, Mr. Vice President.
I think you're so underestimating what Barack Obama did. He's the first man to bring together the entire world, 196 nations, to commit to deal with climate change immediately. So I don't buy that. But the first thing I would do is make sure that we defeat Donald Trump. Period.
But you're already in office. This is your first day in office. It's already happened.
Issue as president that you were going to block and tackle.
We got to fix our democracy before it's too late. Get that right. Climate, immigration, taxes, and every other issue gets better.
Mr. Yang.
I would pass a $1,000 freedom dividend for every American adult starting at age 18, which would speed us up on climate change, because if you get the boot off of people's throats, they'll focus on climate change much more clearly.
Governor Hickenlooper?
I would do a collaborative approach to climate change, and I would pronounce it well before the election to make sure we don't re-elect the worst president in American history.
And Ms. Williamson with the
My
last
first call
word.
is to Prime Minister of New Zealand, who said that her goal is to make New Zealand the place where it's the best place in the world for a child to grow up. And I will tell her girlfriend you are so on, because the United States of America is going to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up.
Ms. Williamson, thank you. You guys were close with the short, at least it was shorter.
No, there wasn't.
What was she talking about?
She's going to call her friend in New Zealand.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with these candidates right after this.
That's why they aren't letting her speak.
Yeah.
If you notice, she's only actually been asked a direct question like once.
She just drives me crazy. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, other than she fucking bothers me.
I think they know that, so they're not even.
Yeah, well, and she's not going to be
her.
around for much longer as far as this campaign goes. She's going to be out soon.
Depends on what her woo tells her.
Yeah, maybe she'll have to throw some bones, or see if her healing crystals point in any certain direction. I guess
that's what she'll do. She'll change out the jade egg in her vagina.
Her virgina.
Yeah. And again, I think that's the wrong woo. We keep getting her woo confused.
I know, but the goop stuff is just the funniest of the woo.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Get her woo straight.
All right, we'll be right back.
This is Matt Dillahunty, and you're listening to the Godless Revolution.
So to be clear, Mr. Trump has no financial relationships with any Russian oligarchs.
That's what he said. That's what I said. That's obviously what our position is.
If you have questions, comments, concerns, compliments, corrections, criticisms, or concepts for content, contact the show via email at godlessrevolution@gmail.com, by text or voicemail at 330-81-REBEL, or Twitter the twatter at TGR Podcast. Thank you!
We're back again! Yay! You can tell from the wonderful theme music.
Yeah. I wonder which chorus or conductor conducts this. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
Candidates debate in Miami. We're going to continue the questioning now with Lester in the audience. We are?
Or not. No, you're not.
We are in a second are going to have a question. That was just a fake out.
You gotta find Ken Bone.
Yeah.
And Congressman Swalwell, among this field of candidates, you have a unique position on gun reform. You're proposing that the government should buy back every assault weapon in America, and it should be mandatory. How do you envision that working, especially in states where gun rights are a strong flashpoint?
Keep your pistols, keep your rifles, keep your shotguns, but we can take the most dangerous weapons from the most dangerous people. We have the NRA on the ropes because of the moms, because of the Brady Group, because of Giffords, because of March for Our Lives. But I'm the only candidate on this stage calling for a ban and buyback of every single assault weapon in America. I've seen the plans of the other candidates here. They would all leave 15 million assault weapons in our communities. They wouldn't do a single thing to save a single life in Parkland. I'll approach this issue as a prosecutor. I'll approach it as the only person on this stage who has voted and passed background checks, but also as a parent of a generation who sends our children to school where we look at what they're wearing so we can remember it in case we have to identify them later. A generation who has seen thousands of black children killed in our streets, and a generation who goes to the theater and we actually look where the fire exits are. We don't have to live this way. We must be a country who loves our children more than we love our guns.
Senator Sanders.
So pass the torch.
Yeah.
Newspaper.
Just like the Olympics.
Sanders, a Vermont newspaper recently released portions of an interview you gave in 2013 in which you said, quote, "My own view on guns is everything being equal, states should make those decisions."
No.
Has your thinking changed since then? Do you now think there's a federal role to play?
That's a mischaracterization of my thinking. Look, we have a gun. We have a gun crisis right now. 40,000 people a year are getting killed. In 1988, Rachel, when it wasn't popular, I ran on a platform of banning assault weapons, and in fact lost that race for Congress. I have a D- voting record from the NRA. And I believe that what we need is comprehensive gun legislation that, among other things, provides universal background. We end the gun show loophole. We end the straw man provision. And I believed in 1988, and I believe today.
Why would you
that assault weapons are weapons from the military, and that they should not be on the streets of America.
Your plan leaves them on the streets. You leave 15 million on the streets.
We banned the sale and distribution, and that's what I believe for many years.
Will you buy them back?
If people want to buy, if the government wants to do that, and people want
you're going to be the government,
yes.
Will you buy them back?
Yeah.
Senator Harris, we're going to give you 30 seconds.
Thank you. I think your idea is a great one, Congressman Swalwell, and I will say that there are a lot of great ideas. The problem is Congress has not had the courage to act, which is why when elected President of the United States, I will give the United States Congress 100 days to pull their act together, bring all these good ideas together, and put a bill on my desk for signature. And if they do not, I will take executive action, and I will put in place the most comprehensive background check policy we've had. I will require the ATF to take the licenses of gun dealers who violate the law, and I will ban by executive order the importation of assault weapons. Because I'm going to tell you, as a prosecutor, I have seen more autopsy photographs than I care to tell you. I have hugged more mothers who are the mothers of homicide victims, and I have attended more police officer funerals. It is enough. It is enough. There have been plenty of good ideas from members of the United States Congress. There's been no action. As president, I will take action.
Mayor Buttigieg, I want to bring you in on this, sir.
Yay!
A lot of discussion about assault rifles that are often shorthanded as military-style weapons. You are the only person on this stage tonight with military experience as a veteran of the Afghanistan war. Will military families, does that inform your thinking on this view? Do you believe that military families or America's veterans will, at large, have a different take on this than the other Americans who we've been talking about and who Congressman Swalwell is appealing to with his buyback program?
Yeah, of course, because we trained on some of these kinds of weapons. Look, every part of my life experience informs this. Being the mayor of a city where the worst part of the job is dealing with violence, we lose as many as were lost at Parkland every 2 or 3 years in my city alone. And this is tearing communities apart. If more guns made us safer, we'd be the safest country on earth. It doesn't work that way.
Fuck yes, that was an awesome thing to say.
Like universal background checks can't seem to get delivered by Washington, even when most Republicans, let alone most Americans, agree it's the right thing to do. And as somebody who trained on weapons of war, I can tell you that there are weapons that have absolutely no place in American cities or neighborhoods in peacetime, ever.
Vice President Biden, 30 seconds.
Yeah. A real 30 seconds?
A real 30 seconds.
I'm the only person that's beaten the NRA nationally. I'm the guy that got the Brady bill passed, the background checks, number one. Number two, we increased that background check during the Obama-Biden administration. I'm also the only guy that got assault weapons banned, and the number of clips in a gun banned. And so, folks, look, and I would buy back those weapons. We already started talking about that. We tried to get it done. I think it can be done, and it should be demanded that we do it, and that's a good expenditure of money. And lastly, we should have smart guns. No gun should be able to be sold unless your biometric measure could pull that trigger. It's within our right to do that. We can do that. Our enemy is the gun manufacturers, not the NRA. The gun manufacturers.
Vice President,
but the NRA is taking over.
The NRA supports the gun manufacturers not doing that.
Lester, take it away. All right, Chuck, this is a question.
I think the NRA is slowly crumbling right now, too.
Oh, it absolutely is, yeah.
Like their NRA TV program shit?
Yeah.
Gone.
That's gone. They've had people leaving.
Members are dropping like
Members
crazy.
Are going. People leading the organization are going.
Ted Nugent won't keep them afloat forever.
Biden is seeming more and more out of touch with everything that he has to answer. Everything that spills out of his doddering. Like he seems to be. He seems to have lost a step to me. He seems almost lost on stage.
Well, and he went into tonight as the number one.
As the front runner, yeah.
I don't think he's going to leave number one.
I think he'll leave the stage number one. I don't think he'll hang on to it for a whole lot longer. And I think the more that he is in the public eye and the more that he is forced to answer questions, the more people are going to see this isn't the guy to lead us forward.
Especially if he's on stage with Harris and Sanders.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with Harris, Sanders, Warren, Buttigieg. Any of those people, I think, wipe the floor with Biden. He's just, he's Uncle Joe. He's a decent guy. I think he's done some good things, but he's
had his time.
He's past his prime. He's lost a step. He's out of touch with the issues that are really important to the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which is the wing that is going to be out and voting and working for the candidates who are running. And if you're not representing your core and most ardent supporters in your base, then you've lost. You've lost the race before you even begin. And he's starting to lose them more and more over time. And like I said, the more he's in the public eye, I think the more he's going to start sliding.
And it's kind of ironic that the oldest guy on stage has probably helped rile up the most young voters, youngest demographic.
Yeah, we were watching. I wasn't sure I can't remember if you were here when Matt and I were watching it, and they showed poll results broken out by age brackets for supporters of Biden versus supporters of Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like with Biden, the older the age brackets got, the higher his level of support. And with Bernie, it was just the and with the younger sections, he had less support, and the older he had more. And with Bernie, it was just the opposite. They were mirror images of each other, because Bernie is energizing the
revolution,
the people who are tired of politics as usual.
Yeah. I think Buttigieg is doing a good job, though, too.
Maybe they could share some. Here's one that came from Kathleen from Canby, Oregon, who writes, many fear the current administration has inflicted irrevocable harm on our governing institutions and norms, and in the process, on our reputation abroad. The question is, what do you see as important early steps in reversing the damage done? And we'll put this one to Senator Bennet.
Thank you very much. What an excellent question. First of all, we have to restore our democracy at home. The rest of the world is looking for us for leadership. We have a president who doesn't believe in the rule of law. He doesn't believe in freedom of the press. He doesn't believe in independent judiciary. He believes in the corruption that he's brought to Washington, D.C., and that is what we have to change, and that's why everybody is up here tonight, and I appreciate the fact that they're up here for that reason. Second, we need to actually drain the swamp, restore the relationships that he's destroyed with our allies. Not just in Europe, he flew to the G20 last night and attacked Japan, Germany, and a third ally of ours without saying anything about North Korea or Russia. And when you've got a situation where you have a president who says something happened in the Straits of Hormuz and the whole world doesn't know whether to believe it or not, that is a huge problem when it comes to the national security.
Yeah. He's got no credibility.
Yeah, it's a giant fucking problem. You never know if he's telling the truth or not.
Time for me to do another one of these down the line. And this is what this question is, which is you're likely going to have to reset a relationship between America and another country or entity if you become president, perhaps because of some relationship that you just mentioned about President Trump. What is the first relationship you like to reset as president? I'll go down the line, and I'll start with Ms. Williams.
Mexico. One of my first phone calls would be to call the European leaders and say, we're back. Because
I would say Mexico. I think we've done the most damage to Mexico.
The United States be part of the Western Alliance.
I'm trying to get one or two words here. I hear you.
You know, I talk about constant engagement, and I think the first country I would go to, and I understand they've been cheating and stealing intellectual property, would be China, because if we're going to deal with public health pandemics, we're going to deal with all the challenges of the globe.
Just the country.
That was all we wanted. Yeah.
No explanation.
We'll try to squeeze in a couple more things before we go to another break. Mr. Yang.
China, we need to cooperate with them on climate change, AI, and other issues. North Korea.
Thanks for the quickness. Mayor Buttigieg.
We have no idea which of our most important allies he will have pissed off worse between now and then. What we know is that our relationship with the entire world needs to change. And it starts by modeling American values.
That was fucking awesome.
Okay,
that was.
Mr. Vice President, I'm trying to be quick.
We know NATO will fall apart if he's elected 4 more years as the single most consequential alliance in the history of the United States.
Senator Sanders.
It's not one country. I think it is rebuilding trust in the United Nations and understand that we can solve conflicts without war, but with diplomacy.
Senator Harris.
All the members of the NATO alliance.
Senator Gillibrand.
President Trump is hell-bent on starting a war with Iran. My first act will be to engage Iran to stabilize the Middle East and make sure we do not start an unwanted, never-ending war.
Senator Bennet, quickly.
Our European allies in every Latin American country that's willing to have a conversation about how to deal with the refugee crisis.
And Congressman Swalwell.
Our first act in foreign policy, we're breaking up with Russia and making up with NATO.
Thank you all. Thank you all. We have last question for Vice President Biden tonight. You have made your decades of experience in foreign policy a pillar of your campaign. But when the time came to say yes or no on one of the most consequential foreign policy decisions of the last century, you voted for the Iraq War. You have since said you regret that vote. But why should voters trust your judgment when it comes to making a decision about taking the country to war the next time?
Because once Bush abused that power, What happened was we got elected after that. I made sure the president turned to me and said, Joe, get our combat troops out of Iraq. I was responsible for getting 150,000 combat troops out of Iraq, and my son was one of them. I also think we should not have combat troops in Afghanistan. It's long overdue. It should end. And thirdly, I believe that you're not going to find anybody who has pulled together more of alliances to deal with what is the real stateless threat out there. We cannot go it alone in terms of dealing with terrorism. So I'd eliminate the act that allowed us to go into war and not the AUMF, and make sure that it could only be used for what its intent was, and that is to go after terrorists, but never do it alone. That's why we have to repair our alliances. We put together 65 countries to make sure we dealt with ISIS in Iraq and other places. That's what I would do. That's what I have done, and I know how to do it.
Senator Sanders, 30 seconds.
One of the differences that Joe and I have in our record is Joe voted for that war. I helped lead the opposition to that war, which is a total disaster.
Yeah.
I helped lead the effort for the first time to utilize the War Powers Act to get the United States out of the Saudi-led intervention in Yemen, which is the most horrific humanitarian disaster on earth. And thirdly, let me be very clear. I will do everything I can to prevent a war with Iran, which would be far worse than disastrous war with Iraq.
Senator Sanders, thank you.
All right, guys. Informed consent of the American people.
Good news is you get more time to talk, but I have to sneak in one more break. We'll be right back with more debate.
Through the magic of editing and recording and stuff like that, we're not even going to take a break this time because we're closing in on the end of the debate.
What?
So we're just going to keep this rolling as far as everybody knows.
It's getting close. I mean, we haven't given our audience a long show in quite a while.
It has been a while that we've
given them a 4-hour-long debate show.
Oh, and just like that, they're back.
They're back.
It's awesome how we can warp time like that in audio fashion.
I was going to say, they're back just like herpes.
Their case to the voters, 45 seconds.
Well, herpes just really never goes away.
Congressman Swalwell.
Either do they.
We can't be a forward-looking party if we look to the past for our leadership. I'm a congressman, but also a father of a 2-year-old and an infant. When I'm not changing diapers, I'm changing Washington. Most of the time, the diapers smell better. I went to Congress at 31, and I found a Washington that doesn't work for people like you and me. It's made of the rich and the disconnected. I was the first in my family to go to college and have student loan debt. And so I have led the effort to elect the next generation of members of Congress, and we have a moment to seize. This is a can-do generation. This is the generation that will end climate chaos. This is the generation that will solve student loan debt. And this is the generation that will say enough is enough and end gun violence. This generation demands bold solutions. That's why I'm running for president.
Congressman, thank you.
Ms. Williamson, 45 seconds for your closing
I'm sorry we haven't talked more tonight about how we're going to beat Donald Trump. I have an idea about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to be beaten just by insider politics talk. He's not going to be beaten just by somebody who has plans. He's going to be beaten by somebody who has an idea what this man has done. This man has reached into the psyche of the American people, and he has harnessed fear for political purposes.
We know that.
Mr. President, if you're listening, I want you to hear me, please. You have harnessed fear for political purposes, and only love can cast that out. So sir, I have a feeling you know what you're doing.
She's running on love.
I'm going to harness love for political purposes. I will meet you on that field, and sir, love will win.
Ms. Williamson, thank you.
And sir, love will win. I'm telling you that now.
Unless they're playing tennis on that field.
True.
Then love means nothing.
True. That was good.
I really like that. That was fucking awesome.
You need to email that to her.
Senator Bennet. Thank you. My mom and her parents came to the United States to rebuild their shattered lives. In the only country that they could. 300 years before that, my parents' family came searching religious freedom here. The ability for one generation to do better than the next is now severely at risk in the United States, especially among children living in poverty like the ones I used to work for in the Denver public schools. That's why I'm running for president. I've had 2 tough races in Colorado by bringing people together, not by making empty promises. And I believe we need to build a broad coalition of Americans to beat Donald Trump, end the corruption in Washington, and build a new era of American democracy and American opportunity. This is going to be hard to do, but it's what our parents would have expected. It's what our kids deserve. I hope you'll join me in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Governor Hickenlooper.
I'm a small business owner who brought that same scrappy spirit to make Colorado one of the most progressive states in America. We expanded reproductive health to reduce teenage abortion by 64%. We were the first state to legalize marijuana, and we transformed our justice system in the process. We passed universal background checks in a purple state. We got to near universal health care coverage. We attacked climate change with the toughest methane regulations in the country, and for the last 3 years, we've been the #1 economy in America. You don't need big government to do big things. I know that because I'm the one person up here who's actually done the big progressive things everyone else is talking about. If we turn towards socialism, we run the risk of helping to re-elect the worst president in American history.
Thank you, Governor.
Senator Gillibrand, you have the floor for 45 seconds.
Women in America are on fire.
No.
We've marched, we've organized, we've run for office, and we've won. But our rights are under attack like never before by President Trump and the Republicans who want to repeal Roe v. Wade, which is why I went to the front lines in Georgia to fight for them. As president, I will take on the fights that no one else will. I stood up to the Pentagon and repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I've stood up to the banks and voted against the bailout twice. I've stood up to Trump more than any other senator in the U.S. Senate, and I have the most comprehensive approach for getting money out of politics with publicly funded elections to deal with political corruption. Now is not the time to play it safe. Now is not the time to be afraid of firsts. We need a president who will take on the big challenges, even if she stands alone. Join me in fighting for this.
Senator Gillibrand, thank you.
Mr. Yang, you have 45 seconds for your closing.
First, I want to thank everyone who put me on this stage tonight. I am proof that our democracy still works. Democrats and Americans around the country have one question for their nominee, and that is who can beat Donald Trump in 2020? That is the right question. And the right candidate to beat Donald Trump will be solving the problems that got Donald Trump elected and will have a vision of a trickle-up economy that is already drawing thousands of disaffected Trump voters, conservatives, independents, and libertarians, as well as Democrats and progressives. I am that candidate. I can build a much broader coalition to beat Donald Trump. It is not left. It is not right. It is forward. And that is where I'll take the country in 2020.
That's his slogan.
I liked his little hand waving. It's not left. It's not right. It's forward. I think in order to get, this broad coalition, he's going to have to develop a personality first.
Well, and it may sound bad what I'm about to say next.
Should I be nervous?
Maybe. He might be able to get on Trump's side because his haircut reminds me of Kim Jong-un.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
The high and tight kind of thing?
Kind of shaving the side and kind of like folded over. It kind of looks... It's maybe because he's Asian with the buzz cut kind of thing, shorter sides, longer. He kind of have a Kim Jong-un vibe going on there, and Trump likes that.
I just don't see him getting much traction, especially after this debate where he's
not dynamic enough.
No, not by a fucking long shot. He seems to be an empty suit, just a guy standing there. He's got some good ideas, but there's no way that he's going to bring a bunch of people on board with him because there's no charisma there.
No.
Charisma. He's not charismatic. There's no charisma there. He is not going to be long for this.
But he wants to give you $1,000 a month
of primary voting and stuff like that there. Yeah, he does want to give you $1,000 a month. And like I said, I think UBI is a good idea, something that we're definitely going to have to take a good hard look at going forward as more and more people are displaced from the workforce. But he's not the guy to bring that message home to people, I think.
Senator Harris, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I just want to leave you with a couple of things.
Yeah, she's been a rock star.
She's been fucking.
She's killed it. She is, I think, hands down won this debate.
Against 4 more years of Donald Trump, and I will do that.
More of what she has
First, I want to thank everyone who put me on this.
No, fuck you, Andrew.
Independents and libertarians, as well as Democrats and progressives. I am that candidate. I can build a much broader coalition to beat Donald Trump.
The show is long enough
that
I can't.
It is not.
Yeah, you can't select a very good point in time.
Thank you.
Like if I go back, it's going to go back.
But here's Kamala Harris coming up again.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I just want to leave you with a couple of things. One, we need a nominee who has the ability to prosecute the case against 4 more years of Donald Trump, and I will do that. Second, this election is about you. This is about your hopes and your dreams and your fears and what wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's why I have what I call a 3 a.m. agenda. That is about everything from what we need to do to deliver health care to how you will be able to pay the bills by the end of the month. And when I think about what our country needs, I promise you, I will be a president who leads with a sense of dignity, with honesty, speaking the truth, and giving the American family all that they need to get through the end of the month in a way that allows them to prosper. So I hope to earn your support. Please join us at KamalaHarris.org.
Senator, thank you.
Mayor Buttigieg.
That's good. Not as strong, I think, as for other points during the debate
for me. I've had the experience of writing a letter to my family, putting it in an envelope marked just in case, and leaving it where they would know where to find it in case I didn't come back from Afghanistan. I have the experience of being in a marriage that exists by the grace of a single vote on the U.S. Supreme Court. I have the experience of guiding a community where the per capita income was below $20,000 when I took office into a brighter future. I'm running because the decisions we make in the next 3 or 4 years are going to decide how the next 30 or 40 go. And when I get to the current age of the current president in the year 2055, I want to be able to look back on these years and say my generation delivered climate solutions, racial equality, and an end to endless war. Help me deliver that new generation to Washington before it's too late.
Thank you. I got to say, the more I hear from Pete, the more I like him. Well, I guess that's not entirely true. I've liked a lot of what he's had to say tonight. I think he's done very, very well. He seems focused, driven, directed.
He's got more charisma.
He's, well, and he just seems far more intelligent and engaged and forward-thinking.
And I think the one that kind of won me over here with him tonight with the best answer he gave was when they asked about the shooting in his city.
Yeah.
He goes, I fucked up.
Yeah. I couldn't get it done.
I didn't.
I think that was just so nakedly
raw. He's also the only one to bring religion into it when he wasn't even asked about it.
Yeah. And that has bothered me. I've voiced that concern.
Pete.
But yeah.
Boo Pete.
Well.
Boo Pete.
And if he I can't imagine that he did have more religion than Trump if he were elected for sure.
No, and everything else has been really good from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm continually impressed with him, and I liked his little jab in there about, when I'm in the year 2055 or whatever it was, when I'm the age of the current president, like that kind of poked at Trump and at Sanders and Warren and Biden, and they should have patched the torch.
Thank you. Senator Sanders, 45 seconds, the floor is yours.
I suspect people all over the country who are watching this debate are saying, these are good people, they have great ideas. But how come nothing really changes? How come for the last 45 years wages have been stagnant for the middle class? How come we have the highest rate of childhood poverty? How come 45 million people still have student debt? How come 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of America? And here is the answer. Nothing will change unless we have the guts to take on Wall Street, the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the military-industrial complex, and the fossil fuel industry. If we don't have the guts to take them on, we'll continue to have plans, we'll continue to have talk, and the rich will get richer, and everybody else will be struggling.
Thank you, Senator.
Absolutely right.
We'll hear from Vice President Biden. Sir, you have 45 seconds.
Thank you very much. I'm ready to lead this country because I think it's important we restore the soul of this nation. This president has ripped it out. It's the only president in our history who has equated racist and white supremacists with ordinary and decent people. He's the only president who has engaged and embraced dictators and thumbed their nose at our allies. I'm secondly running for president because I think we have to restore the backbone of America, the poor and hardworking middle-class people. You can't do that without replacing them with the dignity they once had. Lastly, we got to unite the United States of America as much as anybody says we can. If we do, there's not a single thing the American people can't do. This is the United States of America. We can do anything if we're together. So God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
Vice President Biden.
He brought God Buttigieg isn't the only one to invoke.
I'm not surprised it's
the
Biden.
Invisible Sky Wizard. Yeah.
We want to thank our candidates. We've had 2 nights of spirited debate on a range of issues, 20 candidates in all. We want to thank all of the candidates last night.
Seriously, it takes guts to run and stick your neck out like this to you guys and to the
No. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. It's great to see you.
That's why I just started fading them. I'm like, we don't need to hear you.
Let's all retire to the spin room now and try to salvage the shitty performance that several of you had, and maybe, shit on performance of other people that you don't like and didn't do as well as. Fucking Harris nailed it tonight, man.
She did good.
She was on fire. She was so good. Every single one of the answers that she gave was so good. I was thoroughly impressed.
I kind of want to see her attack Trump.
I am excited for a bunch of these extraneous people to get off the stage.
Yeah.
Fucking Swalwell, I think, should drop out fucking tomorrow. He was terrible. Williamson should drop out tomorrow because she was terrible. Hickenlooper should drop out because he was terrible. I mean, that's 3 people out of the 10 on this stage right
should
now.
drop out
Biden should drop out.
He was terrible.
He was pretty
but
terrible.
The other guy from Colorado did pretty good. I keep forgetting his name. The guy that has a very distinguished voice.
Bennett, yeah.
Yeah, Bennett.
Michael Bennet.
I thought he did all right.
I really like him. He's kind of a soft-spoken guy in Congress, but when he's passionate about something and when he has strong feelings about it, you're going to know it because he's going to let you know. And I think he did a really good job tonight. I think a lot of people are going to walk away looking for more information on him. They're going to be looking for more information on Gillibrand. I think she did very well this evening. Sanders, I think, was great this evening. But the more I watched Biden, the more I'm growing actually concerned for his physical and mental health. He just seems like he's not all there.
Maybe he wasn't prepared. We don't know what.
Maybe he's tired. Maybe he's hungry. Something there was something there that
he made
him not be all the way there. Yeah, it was a very disappointing performance from Biden. Not that he's anywhere near my top choice or anything, but with him currently leading the field, I think his performance tonight, his numbers are going to really tank in the next few days or week.
Good.
Yeah, that is a good thing. I think Sanders, Biden, so I would love to see Castro, Booker, Warren, Buttigieg, Sanders, Harris, Gillibrand, maybe Yang, just because he's got some interesting ideas. But he's also got some fucking terrible ideas.
I don't think he's going to get very far.
No, I agree with you. Did you have Bennett in there?
I did not have Bennett in there because ultimately I don't think he's going to be around for very long.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good guy and he's very passionate about a lot of things. I don't think anything he did tonight is going to change his numbers. I think they're going to slide as more people shift to other people like Buttigieg, and Castro from last night's performance was good. But I think Harris is probably going to see the biggest bump in her polling numbers. She was fucking awesome tonight, man. I can't get over how blown away I was with her performance. She was really, really good.
She was on the attack quite a bit, and she was never really had to get on the defense.
No, yeah. One of the things that people have voiced concerns over is her history as a prosecutor. And a lot of the cases where what happens in the communities where she was acting as prosecutor is that she was basically enforcing, as one of the chief law enforcement officers, the whole systemic racism thing that she's currently railing against. And so I don't know, she's apologized for her role in a lot of that in the past, and I think that's a good thing. I think that may continue to haunt her as she moves through the process, but I think she was fucking awesome tonight. She was really, really good.
So when she was attacking Biden should have came back and said, how many African Americans have you put in jail?
Yeah. He kind of hinted at it. Well, no, was it him? No, it was him, because he said that he was a defense attorney.
Oh, yeah.
Not a prosecutor.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Leaving his cushy
So he
job.
did kind of hint at that in a roundabout way for people who follow a lot of the minutia about the backgrounds of a lot of these candidates. But, I thought that was a great performance by several people on stage. I think Swalwell, though, had the worst. The worst night of any candidate out there. He recently declared, I think he's going to be one of the first people to drop out. Yeah, he's going to suspend his campaign.
He's going to take down that cat poster he put up in his office that says "Never give up."
Because it was so awful as to be embarrassing. Like, he should be embarrassed looking back on this performance at just how fucking ridiculous it was. Pass the torch. That was just dumb, dude. Like, you can try to get in some zingers and some one-liners and sound bites and shit, but maybe run them past other people and see if they also think, yeah, it's a great line. You should really use that one.
Buttigieg should have been like, yeah, pass the torch. I'm the youngest guy here.
Like, I don't know who he would have ran that by that said, yeah, you should absolutely use that. That's a great idea. And then to use it as often as he did. Yeah. And Hickenlooper mentioning, well, I was a scientist twice, when he's also, he was defending shitty positions with, well, I'm a scientist and I like data-driven stuff. Well, but the things you're defending aren't really defensible if you look at the statistics and information and data behind them. So I think he'll have some problems going forward. But this was fun.
Yeah.
We haven't watched the debate together for
2 years.
Couple years now.
Yeah.
But I liked it. Thank you guys very much. And thank all of you out there listening. We will be back next week. We won't be doing a debate next week, so that will make the members of our listening audience who don't care fuck all about politics.
But oddly, people liked it when we did it last time. So
yeah, it seems a little strange to me, but I don't know. I like watching the debates. So if people want to
listen to us rant while we watch
a debate, I guess that's good. But thank you all very much. We're going to be ending the show now. And because it's so long, there's not going to be extra Patreon content. But we would like to thank our Patreon supporters before we go. That would be Alan Firth,
Newmania,
Christy Kalbach,
Gaytheist,
Larry Wilson,
Stephen Andrus,
Let Them Eat Kofefi,
Two Skeptical Chaps,
Michelle Short,
Vanessa,
Captain Samples,
Utah Outcast,
Janet Uter,
Marius Buchakowski,
Wes Aaron,
Andrew Vodopich,
Jeremy Goodson,
Brandy Hamrick,
Megan Kennedy,
The Thaz,
Jeff Peterson,
Jesse Pointer,
Freethinker 215, and Marge Simpson support the Free Thought Society.
the Fart Free Thought Society.
The Tasmanian Devil. Savita Kuna.
The Purple Dragon.
And Taylor Gray.
Hey! Thank you all very much. And so until next week, crucify that like button.
Just give us a fucking review.
And rate the show 5 times a day toward tennis. Wonder how he does his hair so neatly.
I think it's he's just very straightforward with how he does it.
Yeah.
It's a very straightforward hairdo.
Yeah.